Hey guys, so just wanted to come in before the episode just to clear up some things. So if you listen to our part one, you know that this was recorded a while ago. This was actually recorded around the time that 3D had dropped as a single, like before the album came out. So some information's old. This was way before everything that started happening in Palestine. So I do mention it in the PSA that I do. But it was still very early, but I think we were about a week in, but still, as far as doing research on like information and things like that, haven't really started yet. I also mentioned people, and by people, I mean certain celebrities, aka one named Eric Nam, before all this happened. And if you listen to our last episode, you guys know how I am feeling about him lately. I was also trying to get this out before November 11th because that is our 3rd-year anniversary of this podcast. And that didn't really happen. So I'm going to try to get this out on Thanksgiving as like a anniversary / holiday episode. But if it doesn't come out then, just know I was very, very busy. Anyway, thank you so much if you have been listening to us for a while, for sticking around. I always say this, and I know we're small, but it still means a lot to us to have listeners. But anyway, I don't want to make this too long because my PSA is already very long, and then we also talk for a very long time about Briana's trip. So yeah, please enjoy this episode.
Okay, guys, so this is part 2, and in this part, we focus on Briana's trip to Singapore and South Korea. And I believe when she was in South Korea, she only visited Seoul and Busan. So we only talk about those 2 cities when we talk about South Korea. You don't have to listen to part 1, especially if you're not a K-pop fan. And we mostly talked about the current events that was happening. But we do bring up some things that we talked about in part 1. So if you want to hear the whole story, I would suggest listening to part 1. But again, you don't have to. Now, speaking of part 1, this intro is going to be a little long before we get into the actual episode because I do need to talk about something. And I know I'll probably be setting myself up, okay? Especially when you have opposing opinions, like even on this podcast, but still, no matter what you put out in a public space, you're always setting yourself up for trolls, for people who have opposing opinions than you and trying to silence you, saying you don't know what you're talking about, you're being sensitive. And, sometimes people can't handle opposing dialogue, which we have talked about a lot on this podcast. So with them not knowing how to express feelings or to listen to people, and I don't mean just listen so you can be ready to have an argument. I mean, listen to people and actually digest what they say. And then if you still disagree, you're able to express that in a somewhat mature way. I don't know. That's part of my struggle lately and the situation that happened. So I am going to bring up, if no one knows what I'm talking about, if I'm being too vague, Taeyong putting on the durag in his most previous live, 8th or something, whatever that Sunday was. And honestly, I'm also talking about it just because I would feel like a big hypocrite if I didn't, especially literally last episode when I had talked about Street Woman Fighter 2, I had mentioned I wish they would give up the do-rags because I don't feel like it's needed to prove that you are a good hip hop dancer in that aspect. But again, I will get into that a little bit later. So I guess I will start out with my initial reaction to him putting it on. It's basically the same reaction when I see them wearing a Street Woman Fighter 2. I just sighed, okay? I just gave a sigh and an eye roll. And a lot of questions went through my head, like, why does he have this? Who gave this to him? Does he use it for its intended purpose of actually sleeping to protect his hair? Or does he wear it out in public when he's not doing activities as like a fashion statement? Those were just my initial reactions and thought process. Was I offended? I don't think offended is the appropriate term. But I did feel a level of uncomfortableness, which is the same feeling I get when I see any non-Black person wearing these type of things, do-rags or bonnets, because I am on that side where it's like, I don't believe I would care so much if there just wasn't such a heavy double standard when Black people wear these things. And again, everything I say are just my opinions and things that I observe or may have experienced personally. It's one of the things that we keep trying to emphasize, that Black people are not a monolith. But I have seen way too many times of Black people getting ridiculed for wearing do-rags and bonnets, especially out in public, and that's not being reciprocated to non-Black people who wear it. Even within the Black community, I don't remember if it was earlier this year or it happened last year. We had also gone through this huge discourse online, mainly on TikTok, but I think I saw some of it on Twitter as well, where we were talking about wearing bonnets. Yes, it was mostly towards Black women, but just wearing bonnets and do-rags out in public, and especially towards Black women who wear bonnets out in public. You know, we were going through this whole thing about like respectability politics, where it's like, oh, if you're wearing your bonnet out in public, that just means you don't take care of yourself. You may be going through some mental issues. Those stereotypes of like, they must be like poor and like on Section 8. I had to see Black people chastising other Black people who do wear bonnets and do-rags out in public, being like, we are better than this, you know, don't wear this stuff out in public because non-Black people already perceive us as being, you know, thugs, violent, poor. So you want to go out there and put on your best dress so they don't perceive you in that way. And I'm sorry, especially for Black people and people of color, especially if you're a darker skin tone, there is a lot of not only racism, but colorism that comes into play. So people are already going to make an assumption of you just from first glance without even speaking to you, acknowledging you. Like, sadly, that's the reality that we have to face. And even with that, like, I can talk from experience of having a mother who did push those ideologies onto me, telling me to never walk outside with a bonnet or a scarf on my head, even if I didn't even leave my neighborhood and was just outside in my yard for like 2 seconds to let my dog go to the bathroom. Like, she would tell me, don't step outside with that on your head. And even with a TikToker that I follow who makes bonnets, I got to get another one from her. I actually really liked her bonnets. But she had made a video where I guess she was wearing her bonnet out in like, she was either in a Target or a Walmart. I can't remember, but like she had the camera pointed down at the cart, and some random Black woman that she didn't even know came up to her and was telling her how she felt uncomfortable seeing her out in public with her bonnet on, and how she's, you know, putting on a bad representation for Black people and Black women. And like, she asked her if she's okay, if she's going through something, like just because she had a bonnet on. And you don't even know her. You don't know her name. You know nothing about her, but yet you felt so comfortable to go up to her, tell her that there must be something wrong with her, all because she's wearing a headscarf to run errands, to get groceries. So it's like, when I think about things like that, yeah, I do get uncomfortable when I see non-Black people wear this stuff and get praise, because the reactions are not the same. Because I can bring up a scenario about that outside of K-pop. I also remember, I think a little bit after that discourse was happening, I don't remember where he was, but it was at some baseball game, and Jack Harlow was taking pictures with fans, all type of fans, you know, Black, white, it doesn't matter. Just anyone that recognized him and that is a fan of him. He was taking pictures with them. However, he had a bonnet on. And guess what? The reactions were not the same as far as like questioning, you know, if there's anything wrong with him wearing that, things of that nature. It was more like the Black people that did have a problem with that saying, you know, it's just interesting how Jack Harlow is seen as like part of the culture, you know, the imaginary invited to the cookout. But it's just like, basically he was getting praised for it. And we just had a whole discourse of like shaming Black women, again, for wearing bonnets out in public. But it's okay for Jack Harlow to do that. Again, not everyone was happy with him wearing that bonnet outside, but he did get more praise than if you saw a normal Black person wearing it. And when I say normal Black person, I am talking about your average normal citizen that goes to work a 9 to 5. I'm not talking about Black celebrities, especially Black American celebrities. I do think there is still a difference between a middle class Black American and a 1% think like Jay-Z, Kanye money, Drake money, all them citizen. There is still a difference because, again, they're celebrities. They have a certain status and like persona to put on. And just for them being celebrities in general, they're already looked at as being like innovators and cool, and I guess also praised or just like looked as better than average Black people because they're in the spotlight. So when people do see them, wear those types of clothing, it's not a big deal. Again, they're just part of hip hop, so that's what they do. They're being innovators, things like that. But there is a difference. I see that as like a class difference, like with classism. Because that's also where my struggle is coming in with like how I feel about it. Because yes, they are looking at the famous rappers and singers who are wearing this stuff and they're like, oh, that's what hip hop is. That's what we need to wear to like be more hip hop. But I'm not sure how they feel when, again, they see just a normal citizen wearing these stuff as well. There is a difference there. I don't know what the word for the difference is or how to explain it, but I do know there is a difference there. And when I say there's a difference, I'm mostly talking about non-Black people and are only seeing Black Americans through the lens of entertainment media, but has not been exposed to like Black Americans personally or ever really seen them outside of like, again, entertainment spaces. That's what I mean by they. Because let's be honest, especially with American media and our history in this country, that even to this day, Black people are not portrayed in the best light. And a lot of it are stereotypes, even with the media that portrays us in a positive light. It's reasons why, if we take it out of entertainment, like when we go into the medical field, our pain is not looked at as being seriously because we do have this double-edged sword of like viewing Black people as like being super athletic, super strong, super muscular. The Black people in those spaces had to work 10 times as hard to prove themselves to be in those spaces. Like, look at Michael Jackson, look at Beyonce, even if you want to take it to like a rapper standpoint, look at all the hip hop rappers, like they had to work extra hard. But at the same time, it hurts normal Black people who are just regular citizens because now, since they only see us that way in the media, they think we are all like that. So bringing it back to when Taeyong had put it on, it was just interesting to me how everyone that I saw post about it was talking about, whether it was cultural appropriation or cultural appreciation. And I mean, some people even question if this was just like downright racist. And that was kind of confusing to me because I didn't see it in any of those lights. Now, do I think not only just Taeyong, but BTS have a racist bone in their body? No. However, because this also goes into my annoyance when they bring up their past. I feel like this should have been a bigger conversation on cultural insensitivity under the umbrella of microaggression. And those two things, like I said, it's on like the umbrella or like the spectrum, whatever one you want to look at. It's like the same side of the same coin. So on one side, you have the cultural insensitivity, which was Taehyung putting it on, even though he didn't have it on for too long. He just put it on his head, showed it a little bit, was tying it, and then took it off. I feel like the conversation would have been completely different if he did put it on, kept it on, and like all of a sudden put on hip hop music and started, throwing gang signs around. But he didn't do that. He literally just put it on, took it off. And he had called it a scarf. So not really understanding or even just knowing it had some type of cultural ties to it just by the way he had called it a scarf. So that's really where the cultural insensitivity comes from. And cultural sensitivity doesn't mean you had any ill intent when you did said action. It's just based on the new information you gathered afterward to where, we get into like, is this cultural appropriation, cultural appreciation, or even just downright racist? Now, the other side of the coin is where the microaggression comes in, and that is where all the discussions of the aftermath happened. Because as we all know, and this doesn't just happen to Black people, okay? It happens to Black people the most, but this does happen to other minority groups, especially if you live in a place like America where we all really are just all mixed up together. And microaggressions are a little bit more harsher when it comes to doubling down on not thinking you did anything wrong. And I believe microaggressions are easier to turn into racism, again, depending on the information you gather or research on your own. Learn how it can be offensive, and then it's up to you whether you want to keep doubling down and making excuses, or actually be like, wow, that really was fucked up of me. I'll make sure to never do that again, and I'll make sure, to try my best to make others understand why this may be wrong, or just not do it again yourself. If you are, an active listener of us, you heard how I talked about what Redlick said to Latrice the first 2 episodes of Straight Woman Fighter. 2 was a sign of microaggression because she had stated out loud and believed that because Latrice's body of a Black woman is the way that it is, that she was automatically a better hip hop dancer than her, deeming it to be unfair to go up against her. Not recognizing that they have different types of styles, and Latrice is just better at this because she has been doing that type of dance for years. So I am not sure if, she actually acknowledged what she said not only could be harmful, but was wrong, or if she doesn't care. And we will never know unless something comes out when the show is over. Because if you look at it that way, because since I am looking at in that aspect of cultural insensitivity on the spectrum of microaggression, instead of if this is cultural appropriation versus cultural appreciation, that's why I also didn't understand people bringing up the arguments or the points of oh, if this was my culture, I would love if he wore this from my culture, or we would gladly give them this piece of clothing from our culture to let him wear it with pride, or if I go over to Korea, they praise people that are willing to try on their hanbok, because with those examples I was saying didn't make sense to me, because consciously or not, we are all under the assumption that we acknowledge these items, whether it is clothing, whether it is a piece of jewelry, or even food, that it is part of a culture. Because I promise you, if you come in there and they share this with you and you start disrespecting it or mocking the people, they wouldn't be happy either. However, it's still collectively, we all have a understanding and hopefully respect that it is part of a culture. That is not same with hip hop when it comes to the Black culture, just because the way it has been so commercialized now, in the year of 2023, we literally just celebrated the 50th year of hip hop, but because it has been so commercialized and exported to not even just the Americans, but just worldwide, to where other people in other countries have now taken hip hop and at least, know the basics of it, but still in their own way kind of turned it into their own expression of hip hop. It's not seen as Black culture anymore. It's just seen as regular entertainment pop culture. So that's where I think the difference is in this whole discussion. But again, we can't have those conversations in K-pop. And that is because, whether we want to admit it or not, a lot of people, I'm just keeping in the K-pop realm, this could be used for entertainment in general, but a lot of people do use K-pop as a form of escapism from the real world. So when anything that has to pertain to the real world, like racism, like colorism, misogyny, you name it, I can name a million things, but when any of those type of issues start to penetrate the bubble that they have created of their perfect, K-pop world with their K-pop idols and nothing can hurt them, their idols are perfect and nothing can hurt their idols, when they feel that is under attack, they will do whatever they need to even if it's to get violent themselves to escape that type of violence, to push it out their bubble. And that's why I don't believe, at least in the K-pop scene, we will ever have true, real, meaningful dialogue about these issues, because it is used as a form of escapism from these type of issues. And unfortunately, there are people like me, a Black woman, or even people in certain religions, because I know K-pop is also, definitely cultural appropriated things that are important in certain religions. We do not have that opportunity to use K-pop as a form of escapism like others do. Because when they do things like this, it is a reminder to us that we cannot escape it. Because I know I've said this before, especially with talking to Nafis. I don't remember what we were talking about, but I had said for people who listen to me complain about certain issues, like why I don't just go to other forms of mediums, it's because I cannot escape it, okay? It does not matter where I go. And I have said before, if I want to truly escape it, I would have to go live in a cave. But even doing that and completely shutting out, like, that doesn't sit right with me, because that makes me feel ignorant of real issues that are going on in the world, like with Israel and Palestine. And I'm going to say this now. It is free Palestine over here on this podcast, now and forever. And if you have a problem with that, you can leave right now and just stop listening to us completely. I would rather you just not listen to us at all. This is literally a humanitarian crisis going on right now. This is literally a genocide that we are all watching. Colonialism. Like, I never thought I would be alive to watch in real time colonialism, even though that never truly ever went away. They just got better at hiding it and rebranding it to make us think it's not colonialism, but it is. It really is. You cannot tell me anything that I will ever find justifiable of killing millions of innocent people, women, men, and children. And sadly, we just have these atrocious governments that just... I don't know. I don't want to stay on this too long, because I might actually start crying, because I do feel helpless, again, being an American and just watching this happen and not being able to do anything. And especially experiencing from the 2020 pandemic and Black Lives Matter movement that happened in 2020, that, like, they don't care. And anytime you do try to stand up and fight back, they have gained enough military power over the years to silence you in any way possible, whether it is to take your life. Even with the whole, like, educate yourself, like, maybe it's because I live in the athletics foot, gangrene, the gout, the worst condition you can ever get state we call Florida, like bottom of the barrel, the foot of America, Florida. I am also seeing how they are trying to eradicate education. Literally, teachers are losing their jobs if they say anything that they deem offensive to white people, to make them feel guilty of what happened in the past, even though, again, this is literally still happening right now. I'm getting off topic, but anyway, we are free Palestine over here. If we want to take it back to the K-pop world, I needed to say that, but bringing it back, that's also probably why I have been getting annoyed lately with fans trying to silence other fans. Because while I do believe people need to be educated on what's happening, like I had just stated, maybe because I am witnessing how they are suppressing education and being able to find actual resources for that education, it's also important to listen to the people who are affected by this and who are supplying resources so you can educate yourself, to not silence them. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, but I still believe in word of mouth. And again, I know that gets tricky with misinformation happening. I just don't know, man. I don't know. I'm trying not to be like I have lost faith in humanity, but sometimes it's really getting to that point But the reason why I see this more as like cultural insensitivity and microaggression also is because in order for us to have the cultural appropriation and appreciation talk is that we have to recognize do-rags are part of Black culture. And I do believe that is getting lost, especially with the way hip hop is so globalized at this point. It's not looked at as Black culture anymore. It's looked at as just mainstream pop culture, which also doesn't get taken seriously, but you're taking away the cultural aspect of a people and putting it as an entertainment aspect, not as a culture for people, but a culture in entertainment. And that's why I thought the whole discourse was, I don't know what the right word for how I felt about the discourse. Not misleading, but like kind of going in circles, and why the people who were silencing Black fans that were offended by it was louder than I feel like it's been in a while. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, because the conversations did trigger me more than him putting it on. And even Black armies were saying we weren't offended by it, but we just wanted to let him know, because non-fans aren't gonna have his best interest and heart like us fans do. And that's why I was so upset when not only were people like blowing this out of proportion, they did the thing that we were trying to stop from happening, which was spreading it so much to where non-fans got a hold of it and now, you know, continue their thoughts of how they feel about K-pop. Because I've said this before, I don't blame the way that some, especially Black Americans, feel about K-pop and the history of how it's created, because it is based off Black American music, which is because I am one of those people, even after everything that I'm saying, I do believe in and love that we are at a point that we can share cultures among one another. And I encourage that. But at the same time, I'm not sure how I feel about nowadays, just because it's not the same for everyone. And there's still a lot of people that take advantage of people sharing their cultures, and it's disrespected, especially with Black Americans of our history of having literally everything taken from us, had to reorganize and regroup as the people that were brought on this land against our will and create our own culture, and yet still get our culture stolen from us and disrespected. So, and it's also looked as something that just a lot of Black people just happen to be really talented at, or that's dominated by Black people. And yes, there are some non-Black people that will at least acknowledge it comes from Black people. However, they don't acknowledge it as being part of Black American culture. And that's where a lot of the microaggression and gaslighting happens, especially when it comes to non-Black people indulging into the genre. Because it also does depend how much they indulge themselves in it, and like if they change their whole personality to try to act Black. And that's definitely where I have a problem when it comes to that, because I do feel like you can be a great hip hop rapper, an R&B singer, a good street dancer, good hip hop dancer, and you don't have to try to act like the Black people you see on TV. Because again, that's just like 1% of how Black Americans act, as we keep trying to say not everyone is a monolith. Because another example that I can give that coexist is the language AAVE. And if you don't know what that means, it's African American Vernacular English. Anytime you go online, you see people reduce it down to internet slang or Gen Z slang, even though there's older people who are Black that speak like this as well. But no, it's been reduced to like my generation form of slang. Like there's not Black people on the internet, but again, a majority of people don't really show their faces. It's usually faces of famous people, anime characters, or you know, whatever you want it to be, but it doesn't have to be your face. And anytime you try to tell someone that it's AAVE, especially when they use it incorrectly, you know, that's where the gaslighting comes in. I'm telling you you're wrong again, just saying that it's just normal internet slang, Gen Z slang, whatever they want to say. Because AAVE is also different depending on what region you are from as well. So it's not all used the same.
Great words from my favorite podcast, The Read from Crystal. Words mean things.
Because even when I say all this, please don't think I am getting it confused or trying to like push this narrative that I think the Black community is a whole utopia where we don't have our own problems. Like, no. There's always going to be problems like from outside forces and then within as well. Like I had said about I cannot escape this, even if I indulge in things that is pertinently created by Black people. Again, as I keep saying, like I've repeated this probably at least 10 times already about how not everyone is a monolith. I will still have to come through the hyper awareness and the worry about colorism, about misogyny, homophobia, transphobia. Like the list goes on that doesn't just have to deal with being Black. And even amongst Black people, we have our own, I can never pronounce this word right. Diaspora. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say, but we have our own like back and forth and conflicts, again, with Black Americans and Black people in other countries, and especially Black people in countries in the continent of Africa. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just wanted to share my thoughts because this also goes into my thing, again, as we preferenced not really last episode, but in part 1, where I at least know JYP has been pushing to be in the American market for the longest time, but like just K-pop companies in general. I know Bang PD from Big Hit / Hybe has also been trying to push into the American market forever, and other K-pop companies are following suit. I'm not sure how that's going to be. One, just because I just don't know how that works in the American market. If I'm being completely honest, because K-pop already is just a mixture of genres in general, when people can go to the original genres to hear that music, I just don't know how it works. And I don't know if the American market does wake up and if they want to start producing their own groups again, how that would compete with K-pop. So that's one thing. And I'm talking about K-pop. I'm not talking about BTS. Like I'm taking BTS out of the equation of K-pop because yes, this is going to sound biased of me as a BTS army, but I do believe they've already surpassed K-pop, even though the roots are in K-pop, but like they don't really follow the K-pop model anymore. And that's what we're seeing in these solos. But it's just like also my hyper awareness, maybe slight worry of them continuing to produce Western groups. I still don't know what their goal is. If the goal is to train them as the K-pop market and put them, like, make them promote in the West, or if they're still going to promote in Korea. And I said this I definitely said this last episode about the colorism in K-pop. And this isn't even for the Black people. This also is for darker skinned Asians, because we are not going to also erase them and pretend they do not exist. I don't know, but that is something I have been thinking about, especially seeing JYP's, group that he just created, Vicha, as well as Dream Academy that's going on now. But I'm not going to talk about that because there's apparently some drama that's happening with one of the girls, especially with this Israeli and Palestinian genocide that's happening. So yeah, I don't know. I wish I can end this on a positive note, but I really just do not know. But I just wanted to share my thoughts because, again, my podcast gives me better, opportunity to do that. And I can talk more than just the 10 minutes that like TikTok would allow me to in a video. In conclusion, was I mad at Taeyong for putting that on? No. Did I feel uncomfortable? Yes. And I think I'll always have that feeling until Black people stop getting criminalized for wearing do-rags as well. So to try to end this on a non-depressing thought, mostly for my Black stands out there, my Black women stands, men, queer, non-binary, do whatever you need to do to keep your peace, okay? Whatever that may mean. The world is already so cruel to us that we just need to find our own sources of happiness, whether it is you do continue to listen to like K-pop or whatever other type of medium, that whether you need to take a step back and then come back, or whether you need to leave altogether. And this also goes out to other people who are K-pop fans and have been affected, like the Muslim community, South Asian community, just please do whatever you guys need to do to keep your peace. But also, let's all try to do better to stand up for what's right. That's something that I'm also trying to work on myself. Free Palestine, because until Palestine are free and other countries that are under some type of colonial occupation, we as a people will never truly be free. So with all that said, please enjoy this episode where Briana talks about her trip to Singapore and South Korea to try to bring some joy into our lives. Okay, we were here forever. I didn't think we were talking about this long, but let's get you to your trip. I don't know if you have a lot you want to talk about with your trip, Briana, but
I mean, whatever you guys have questions on, if you have the opportunity to go to Singapore or Seoul or both, please do it. They are both just honestly beautiful countries, really nice people, amazing food, sights. It was just a really fun trip that had been a long time coming. To kind of just see something different than the West, to be quite honest with you, because most places I've traveled to have been the quote unquote Western civilization, whatever you want to call that. So to kind of go to a country that's a complete difference in terms of culture, architecture, food, language, was really fun. So I just really enjoyed it, and just really, if you're worried for whatever reason, just try it. I mean, you can, like we said earlier in the recording, hear people say this and that on YouTube, but until you actually just kind of experience it yourself, you really should take a lot of that with a grain of salt, because everybody's experience is going to be different. So go for it. Because that was a big leap for me. Language wise, at least in Korea. Singapore, their official language is English. So that was probably the easiest part of the trip. But language wise, Seoul wasn't that hard to get around if you didn't know the language. And again, people were really patient. So for the most part. So if you typed it out on a translating app and your basic words like excuse me and pointing to things at restaurants and saying this one please, it was really easy. Everybody really did their best to kind of accommodate. So it was nice. Just don't be an asshole.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just anywhere, not even just in different countries, but here as well. That'd be nice.
Yeah, just be patient, ask questions. Don't go in there with a certain mentality. I know Americans are known to kind of be like very like rah. So just go there and be patient. Really not that difficult.
Did you ever feel uncomfortable at any point in your trip?
No.
I also want to know that as far as a Black person, did you feel any type of uncomfortableness?
I mean, I think, again, doing the whole thing of going on TikTok and YouTube and watching and being like, you go there with a sense of apprehension because you hear the good and the bad. So I'm not going to say like I didn't go there and was like, oh, why are they looking at me? Like, but I mean.
So they were staring, definitely.
Oh, 100%. Okay. But again, it wasn't malicious. Like I didn't feel like the staring that you would feel here at the States, like.
Did you feel like an exotic creature there?
Not an exotic creature.
No.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that vibe. Like, oh my God.
I know exactly what you mean. No. I mean, with the, like, I think I told you guys, and I'll say it, like, we were at, I forgot the name of the palace, but it was the one essentially from the giant statue of is his name Sejong? He was the king that was responsible for creating Hangul. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was that palace. We went there, and I think they were a Chinese couple based on how I heard them speaking. They just took a picture of us, me and Lisa, my friend Lisa, who is white and I'm black. We thought that they were asking for us to take a picture of them, but in reality, the woman wanted to take a picture with us. So other than that was our only instance where, somebody came up to us and they were like, wow, I had that one lady who I think was complimenting me on my face, and I'm going to choose to think it was compliment on my face. Because, she wasn't being mean. She wasn't laughing. She wasn't pointing. She wasn't trying to touch. She was just like, wow. And she kept saying like face in Korean. And I was just like, yeah, okay, thank you. So, if you take it that way, you could have taken it as being negative. But again, her body language and the way she was talking was not a negative or malicious, body language or way of speech. So no, I didn't think I was and again, I just wasn't paying attention. And for the most part, it felt like New York City, where people aren't paying attention to you. Yes, I think I saw this a lot online. The elderly people will stare at you. But again, I think it's more of like they just don't see black people. I was staring at the other black people I was seeing. So it was like, oh my God, another one. Like, hey, one of us. And I did that in Singapore too. Again, I didn't get stared at in Singapore either. Like, at least not that I knew of. So it wasn't like, oh my gosh, they're staring at me. It was just like, wow, they probably have never seen another black person before, or, and I think that's something that we as Americans take for granted. The fact that we see diversity everywhere, that's something that I paid attention to. It's like, wow, this is very homogenous, which is a weird thing to say, but we're so used to literally going outside at any point in the day and seeing somebody else of a different ethnicity. Like, it literally is not. You actually question it when you don't see people of different ethnicities.
Yeah,
us being, all three of us are minorities. We've all driven or been in areas where we're like,
especially where there's too many of the specific
one. Oh my God.
You're just like, do I need to be here?
Right. And that is more of a sense of security. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm the only one here. Like, do I need to leave? Like, that's us. Over there, I wasn't thinking like, I can't, like, because I'm going to be the only one there. But I'm not thinking like, am I gonna, like, are they gonna kick me out? Like, are they gonna no, it was just like, wow, this is the first time in my life where I haven't, like, I've gone 24 hours and not seen another ethnicity or another, person. It was more along that, but it was never like and of course, because we were there at the same time as the Scouts Jamboree, we were the ones staring like, oh my God, there's white people. Like, there's a group of white people. Or wow, like, I'm not even lying to you. When we ran into the Chileans and the Mexican group of Scouts, I was like, wow, I haven't heard Spanish in like 10 days. Like, it was wild because it was just like, whoa, I understand what they're saying. Like, and I'm here in America, I'm like, oh my God, I don't understand what they're saying. But there I'm like, wow, Spanish. I know those words, So you went so long without hearing Spanish or English that, or, at least all the time, that it was like when you were running into those groups and you're hearing them talk, you're like, wow, it's like people back home,
Yeah.
And that was, again, Singapore was, everybody spoke English. So at no point did I go up to any store and think like, what do I need to say? It was just like, hello. And they'd be like, hello, what can I, everybody spoke English in Singapore. So Singapore was more like, I felt so comfortable in Singapore. I felt kind of like, with the exception of just not being in the States, I felt like I was in the States. So it was nice. I really enjoyed my time.
So as far as food, because I know you were telling us this, because like being Muslim, you have to be like careful about what we're eating and stuff.
Right.
You said they were more accommodating in Singapore than Korea.
Yes. And that, I think, is because you have Malaysia right there. And Malaysia has a very large Muslim population. So, and they literally, from what my friend who I stayed with, shout out to Ting, in Singapore, that's where she's from. you can literally just drive across a bridge to go to Malaysia. Like they take day trips to Malaysia and vice versa. Oh
Really?
yeah, it's an
Wow.
island.
Oh,
Yes,
we
like
might need to go to Singapore.
I think
Yes.
if you're a Muslim person who wants to travel to East Asia or Southeast Asia, Singapore and Malaysia would probably be your best bet in terms of having people and a culture that are very accommodating.
Mm.
In Singapore, and like I told you guys before, you're in food courts or just food areas that have halal food and then non-halal food, and they have tray returns that are halal and non-halal. So they will have them
Mm.
labeled, so you don't mix up your trays and your utensils because that's something that's very important to that religion. Whereas in Seoul, and again, I didn't have to pay attention to it, but I don't remember seeing that. And I don't think it would be easy to ask those types of questions in Seoul because
Right.
Seoul is very you see it, that's what you're going to get. There's not really like, ooh, I'm allergic to peanuts. It's like, then you don't order something with peanuts, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And do you think with that, like in the Thesis case, that is where she might need to learn Korean a little bit more? Because that's
Yes.
where the language barrier would come into.
Or
Yeah.
you would need to, that's probably where YouTube and TikTok would come into play of like, as a Muslim traveler in Seoul, where would I need to go? Or what are some places I would need to eat? Because I really don't think they take the time to cut their meats separate from their vegetarian meals. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or, prepare them in different areas from where they have meat. So that would definitely be something to look out for, but I wholeheartedly recommend Singapore for Muslim travelers and just travelers of color in general. I didn't feel any type of way in Singapore, and it was so easy to get around, and it's just very relaxing. If you're looking for sights, obviously you have the trees you have Marina Bay Sands, of course, that particular area. So I don't want to say that it's very sight heavy, but it was definitely, if you're there for food and just to kind of be outside the United States, it's definitely
It's a good place to go.
Yeah, it was definitely very nice.
I didn't even realize Malaysia was like across the bridge.
Literally.
So then you can like literally hit two countries in one airfare.
Yeah, in one trip.
My friend Lisa, she was doing her tour of all of Southeast Asia, so Cambodia, Vietnam, Thai, Laos, all of that. And they took a bus from Malaysia into Singapore. So it's just a bridge that they crossed to get in.
I didn't even realize they were connected as a country.
Yeah. Because Singapore itself is an island, but it's close enough. Like even if you look on a map, it really looks like it's just attached to the bottom portion of Malaysia.
Oh,
but it is surrounded by water. They just take a bridge to get there.
To get over there. Okay.
Very nice. I enjoyed both of those countries. Very, very high Malaysian, Chinese descended Singaporeans, and then Indians as well.
You're gonna find Indians everywhere. I'm sorry.
That's true. But there was such a large population that they actually had an area called Little India, and you went there and that's all you saw.
Wow.
Yeah, the pants I'm actually currently wearing right now are from Little India. So it was so nice. It was really nice. I enjoyed it, and very cheap. Like very cheap. Transportation was on point. So. And you can use your American credit cards.
Okay, what do you think was cheaper, Singapore or Korea when you're visiting?
Singapore.
Singapore was cheaper?
Yeah, 100%.
Because you couldn't use your American card in Korea, could you?
You could.
You could?
I did. That's all I used all the time. I used my credit card. They weren't too big on Apple Pay. I don't think I really paid Apple Pay anywhere. But credit card, oh yeah. Definitely. Just make sure it's like a MasterCard or a Visa. Those are the two that they take. But yeah, that's all I used my trip. There was a handful of times where we needed cash. So we went to the ATM and pulled out some cash or went to the bank. If you don't want to pay the transaction fee, you go to the bank. But again, that was very intimidating for us, but we needed a solid amount and we didn't want to have to keep going to the ATM. Yeah. So we went to the bank, but they spoke English. So you walked in, no issues. Again, I did not have any issues with the exception of, I'm sure we'll get to that later, the language barrier was not really an issue. And my
So
friend
you
and
didn't
I,
have to pay a fee to use a foreign bank?
No.
Oh, interesting.
That's interesting because also like when I go on like TikToks and YouTubes, they're always talking about either switching, like getting. There's a specific card I guess you can get in the airport where they say you should transfer your money to, or to download some type of cacao app if you just want to pay on your phone, like doing the touch thing.
at least I don't remember having to. You know what? I take that back. So ignore everything I just said. The only time we had to pay a fee was the ATM. I brought $1,000 with me in cash.
Okay,
So
I was going to ask if you
bring
did
cash
that.
with you, and then I do that everywhere. If I go to Jamaica, if I go to Canada, I always, and I just converted it, and that you don't pay a fee. So I think I did like.
That's the best way to get the most out of your transaction.
Always bring cash with you, and then just convert it. I wouldn't do it at the airport. Everybody always said not to do it at the airport. You don't get the best rate. Just go to your nearest bank. But again, Seoul was so card friendly. The only time we needed it was to top up our T-Money card, which is the transport card that you use to travel around. So I took like, I think 40, I don't remember how much money, took it to the bank, asked for Korean won, and then went to 7-Eleven and just put that on my card.
Because how did you do like when you're traveling around on the bus and stuff, like bus fare?
The card, T-Money.
T-Money. Okay, that's the thing I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just a transport card though. It's not.
So that's only for transportation?
Correct.
Okay.
And that doesn't expire?
No, because I have it right over here actually.
Somewhere in your chaos of mess.
I know I just like cleaned up my house yesterday, so I don't know where I put it, but it's just a T-Money card, and anytime you walk onto the bus, it shows you how much you have on the card and how much they charge. And it was only like 1,200 won or 1,000 won or whatever. I think it was like 1,200 won, which is like 75, maybe $1.75.
The Korean won, I think we did the configuration when we all went to dinner.
Right.
Wasn't like for every 1,000, it's 75 cents.
It's like 75
USD?
cents. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
like 75%.
It's still hard to convert it.
Yeah. We got, what I started doing is just removing the zeros, and that's what it would be. So if it's 10,000 won, it's $10. I know it's less than that, but
that's
at least
I do it in my head.
Kept it consistent. And I would just be like, it's a little bit cheaper than that.
That's our version of girl math. It's like,
okay,
girl
round
math
up
to the nearest
zero. I saved money because if it's $10, but I know it's cheaper, but we're not going to think about that. So yeah,
exactly. Because that's what I have to do.
Oh yeah. Singapore, one bus trip was like maybe like 2 cents. Like it was super cheap.
Wow. What about the hotels?
So Singapore, I stayed with my friend. So that's why I think altogether I paid her, because she was like, give me $100. I was like, here's $150. Like, you saved me so much money. Seoul, on the other hand, because again, I was paying everything on my card.
Yeah.
I want to say altogether, I spent less than 2,000, maybe like 15 or 17. I think it was 1,700. So 1,700. That's not including hotel. So hotel split between me and my friend, I spent $640 something, and I just PayPal'd her because she held it on her card. We stayed in the same room. Okay. So she held it on her card, and we split it in half, and I just PayPal'd her the difference.
I mean, that's still not bad though.
And that's including your air ticket?
Air travel. So I broke up my trip, and I flew from Orlando to San Francisco. That was like 600, I think, or no, 200, 300, somewhere around there. And then from San Fran to Singapore was 600 and something dollars, very cheap. And then from Singapore to Seoul was like maybe $150, $200. And then from Seoul back to Vancouver, because the cheapest flight I could find was $1,008. I bought it a little bit later than I should have. That was $1,008 to go from Singapore straight to Vancouver. And then from Vancouver to Orlando was like $300. So
wow,
the most expensive portion was coming back home, and that's still cheaper than it would. I was
just going to ask you if they were round trip or not.
Round trip was going to cost me like $2,000, $3,000. For that type of trip, it's cheaper for you to just
do one
chop
way,
it up.
and then when you're about to come
one
home,
way.
do one way again.
Yeah, unless you can find a round trip, like if you're like maybe if you buy it now for the summer, You could probably find cheaper round trips, but I just found it easier and I think safer and more reliable to fly the other way. Because all the round trip ones were trying to take me through Europe and they were having like 2 and 3 stops. And I'm like, the more stops, the higher risk of you missing one of those. So I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So I would rather
Plus your
plan
luggage
it
too. So
right.
yeah.
And well, you're actually probably, it's harder with luggage doing connections because you have to get off, go get the luggage, put it back. But I had air tags on all my luggage. And the
That's
only
smart.
time,
That's actually very smart.
yeah, the only time I ever had an issue, and I did carry-ons the whole time. So I didn't check.
I was going to ask about the luggage. Like, how much did you pack? Did you actually have like
So-
a carry-on and one of the full suitcases, or did you only do carry-on?
I bought a giant, which if you want that link, I can give it to you. One of those traveling backpacks that you can fit one pair of shoes in. So I put like my sandals in that little shoe, and then I put all my like liquids and cosmetics and medications and my AirPods and my chargers, all of that stuff in that bag. Plus, I shoved the bag that I was taking all my souvenirs in that bag. So I had a crap ton of stuff in that bag. And then in my other carry-on, my larger carry-on, I had all my clothes and just other knickknacks that I needed in that carry-on. So
Interesting.
I just said, I'm just going to do laundry when I go to Seoul and when I go to Singapore. So if you do that with that in mind, don't bring like 11 days worth of clothes. Just bring like a week's worth and then just wash them. That's what I did.
How did you do laundry? Did the hotel you were staying at have laundry service?
So they did, but it was mad expensive. So for like one shirt, it was like $25. So we were like, no.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, it was it. We were like, absolutely the heck not, no. So Lisa found a quick laundry around the corner, and she said, "Girl, it was so cheap." I think she said it was maybe $7 to do both of our laundries. So
Wow.
it was.
I mean,
so
there's
we just
also
found a
hand
laundromat.
washing too.
That yeah.
Worst comes to worst.
Worst comes to worst, you just hand wash your underwear, rewear those jeans.
Right.
And so I wore shorts like twice. So all my jean type shorts I wore twice because I'm like, I would just wear, that's like 2 days I can get out of them. And then all like the clothy kind of shorts and pants that I had, I washed after. So I want to say I brought packing cubes. Those are also 10 out of 10 do recommend packing cubes. I just put all my underwear and bra and stuff that were small and kind of delicate in one packing cube. So that stayed on one side of my suitcase. And then I put my jeans or my shorts and my like my like little kind of blouses in another packing cube. So that's 2. And then I just packed a bunch of stuff on top of that. And you just press them down and it flattens them. It was great. So, or vacuum seal. Vacuum seal everything.
Now on the clothes, because you were telling me something interesting about the type of clothes to wear in Korea, at least. I don't know if it's the same for Singapore, but I guess to try to fit the style, which I thought was interesting, even to the makeup. And I'm a person who does not wear makeup, so
Koreans dress up like are considered casual wear of like t-shirt and jeans is not a thing that I saw over there.
And it is actually there. It's not just an online thing you'll see. Like it's actually
even the clothes that they sold, they didn't really sell jeans. They sold t-shirts, but again, I guess the dancer style that you see is their casual, which to me, the dancers even look dressed up. They have sweatpants. But you don't wear them outside. At least I didn't see. And again, this is just Seoul. So I didn't really see that outside, but they just look nice.
What about, well, I'll ask later. What about like, because you also went to like Busan, right?
We did go to Busan.
Was it like that when you went to Busan?
Very hometowny though. Like, it definitely had a different vibe than Seoul. Seoul is very much like city life. Not saying that Busan isn't city life, but it's coastal. So, and it was hot as hell. So everybody's in like, yeah.
Think of like the suburbs.
It was, I don't even know.
I feel like can imagine Busan to where I live. And you know where I live. Would you consider it to where I live? You've been here for...
No, because it's very like on top of each other. They're very much small houses. I feel like our housing here is a completely different housing situation. You don't really see houses. They're all like small apartments, no matter where you go, or small houses that are like chop, 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 chop right next to each other. There's a lot, the old population seemed a lot older in Busan than it did in Seoul. It was, and again, we were more in the touristy areas.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to like that town that's very much like Little Prince themed. No idea why. We saw like the 1,000-step staircase or the star staircase. I forgot what it was called, or I think it was just the star staircase, where you walk up it and you start to see stars. That's why they named it Star. So we didn't walk down it or up it because we were already seeing stars because it was so hot. But we went to a cute little cafe. We went to their considered the beach where you see the whale model that they have coming out of the ocean and the turtle model that they have coming out. Definitely cute. A different beach. There's like cargo ships in the distance and the water's very brown. But we were like, we get it where you can get it. So we could understand. And then there was like a very like snake bridge. It was very cool. We walked on that. Mermaid statues, lots of little statues in that area. It was very cute. And then, of course, we went to Jimin's dad's cafe.
Talk about that for really if we have any Army listeners, just so they know what to expect if they ever get a chance to go.
This summer, obviously, was the 10-year, I think, for BTS. So
it was, yeah.
The dad had their like kind of picture outside, and when you walk in, there's like a table with lots of little like gifts and stuff, and there's a book that you can write notes to Jimin. But the cafe is not what you would expect. Again, I told you guys, I was thinking you walk in, you're going to see like BTS faces everywhere, and it's very aesthetic, very just neat and just very airy, very earthy tones. The food was amazing. And then he did sell merch, the 1995 like Jimin merch. It was very nice. I really loved it. It smelled amazing in there. People were very nice. That, if you want to see foreigners in Busan, because that was another thing we didn't really see, were foreigners kind of walking around. But if you want to see foreigners, that's where you found them all. They were all hanging out in that cafe because you walked in and it was like, wow, this is like sitting in America. Like, you know, he had BTS music playing in the background, and but you saw all kinds of foreigners, black, white, Asian, Spanish, all in there kind of hanging out. So it was really very nice.
That's funny. That's the meetup for foreigners.
Yeah, right? It's on the list of the K-pop rounds you take when you're in Seoul.
Yeah, but like you said, people shouldn't go there expecting it to be like all decked out and like BTS, like how we do here. Like, especially I feel like if you go to a cup sleeve event, don't they deck it out? Like,
yes, do not think of it as a cup sleeve, like in terms of decoration. Like they do not have like just BTS's face. They actually don't have their faces, I don't think, at all in there. They, like I said, they do have the merch. Some of the drinks are named after, like they have the burahe, like latte or whatever. So they do have like their drinks and desserts named after BTS stuff, but that's pretty much the extent of it.
I mean, I'll go as long as the food's good, and you said it's great, so that don't matter to me.
Oh, absolutely. Food was amazing. Food was amazing. I still dream about that like little cake that I had. Delicious.
But back to like the actual clothing. So like as a person who does wear leggings are life. Okay, sorry guys, I have thighs and I have an ass. Sometimes it's easier just to throw on leggings than to put on jeans. So, and I don't like skirts because again, I have a backside. So the skirt goes up when it's not supposed to. And I'm constantly trying to like pull it down.
I mean, I wore my skinny jeans still haven't died for me in the States. I still wear those around. I wore a lot like jeans. It was just hot. So if you want to wear longer stuff, I definitely recommend you do not go in July because it was hot. So the stuff that we can get, I wear jeans all the time in Florida and I don't get miserable. I would have been miserable if I wore jeans the entire time in Seoul. So I wore shorts, like baggy shorts work. I wore rompers, like those kind of flowy rompers. You can wear sundresses. Sundresses would work. Just make sure you wear shorts underneath because, again, they have that problem there in Seoul as well.
In Japan.
Yeah, just like Japan. So they have that same kind of issue. Nobody really touched me, but they wear a lot of baggy stuff, like baggy cargo pants were the biggest thing that I see.
I've been noticing that a lot lately, like when I go on TikTok and I come across one from Korea, like they're all in baggy
Yes.
Cargo pants.
The store that I went to, all those, they're very, like, even their, I guess, not jeans, but their jean equivalent pants, like just regular pants, I guess, like their dress pants, were all baggy. Like there's no close fitting anything. And I guess that makes sense. No offense to my Korean women out there. Y'all don't really have the curves to fit into the baggy clothes, or to fit or fill out the baggy clothes. So everything is very just pencil straight baggy. So, and the store that I went to, which I forgot, I was in Hongdae, or they don't allow you to try on clothes. So they only allowed you to try on t-shirts. They did not allow you to try on pants or dresses.
You know what? I'm actually not that mad about that.
But the funny thing about that is you're not buying. So you take up all the clothes that you want to purchase, and then they get you the clothes in the back. So they're all sealed.
So everything that's in the store is basically displayed, is what you're saying?
Yes. So it's a display, and you just take it up to the counter and you're like, I want this. And then they go to the back and they give you that shirt or that pant or that hat.
Huh.
So
it's interesting.
Which I feel like we should do here, because
I was going to say, I'm still not kind of mad about that.
Because then you're only trying, like, then when you take it home, you have a brand new, I still wash all my stuff. I still wash all the clothes I bought. But at least, like, worst comes to worst, it's nobody else has worn it except for you. Like when you're trying on stuff, that's the stuff that people have touched and, whatever. But the stuff that you're buying.
Trust me, I used to work in retail. Y'all don't want to hear the horrors of types of clothes I would find in the fitting room. That we have to damage out. So yeah.
It's interesting. So that was cool. The fashion is definitely very even their jewelry. I bought a lot of jewelry. So if you don't want to buy it, if you're not into their fashion there, I bought a lot of jewelry, the little ring.
Love me some earrings.
Did you buy face masks and stuff like that?
So that's probably my one regret, is I didn't do enough research, because when I tell you the Korean market is huge in terms of just products. You walk into I think it's called, what's it called? Olive something, and you just get super overwhelmed because it's just everywhere. And granted, again, it's all in Korean. So you're walking in and you're like, oh my gosh, there's face, there's foot, there's perfume, there's hair, there's everything you can think of. And I just got overwhelmed, and I just saw before coming some things on TikTok. But another thing is because I only had carry-on bags, I couldn't buy a lot of it. So I've asked, do you have small travel bottles? And they'd be like, no. So the stuff that I did know about that I wanted to buy, I couldn't. But face masks, I did. My friend Min, shout out to Min Jong, she bought me some face masks. So I packed those and stuff like that. So I did buy face masks, and I looked at their lip colors and stuff, but none of them were a shade that I really liked. So I didn't really buy anything of that. So the next time I go, now that I know what I'm doing, I think I will purchase a check bag and then try and figure out, make sure my connection times are long enough to where I can go pick up my bag, put it back through security, and then just take that with me all the way to Seoul, because I do want to buy more kind of skincare products. But I was also nervous at whatever skincare, because I know they do love the lightening stuff over there.
I was just going to say that.
I do not want to be any lighter, or not that I'm light at all. So I'm not trying to bleach myself. So I was like, face washes, I would kind of look at sideways. I did buy a face wash from Daiso. Shout out to Daiso. I know it's not a Korean company, but that's here nor there. And it was really cheap, and it came with 10 little face washes, and those things were amazing. So I did buy those, but I did not buy clear your face and blah blah blah, because I was like, let me look that up and make sure it's not going to bleach
also,
my face.
I don't know how much you wear makeup, because I don't really see you wear makeup, but it's not like you could have really bought foundation or anything either, right? So,
right. Yeah, no, foundation is not for us over there. I do wear makeup, but I was more looking at their brow pencils or their eyeliners or their lip glosses and
eyeliner,
stuff.
a cute mascara, maybe.
Their blushes. They had enough ready kind of blush that I could have, but I was like, no. Highlighters you could definitely look at over there. Don't go there looking for good foundation. Sunscreens, maybe. But
I think you have to
again,
be careful with that. Don't they also put some whitening in the sunscreen?
Sometimes, and that's where again I'd have to look up that, like, research that. So I definitely, and their sunscreens are chalky? Not chalky, but they leave that white residue because again they favor that paler skin. So the sunscreens were probably not really geared for us either. I don't think they really
Did you wear sunscreen there when you were out and about?
I did-ish, only because I had gotten tattoos. So I wore sunscreen over those to kind of protect them. And then I'd put some on my face because, again, it was so damn hot that I keep saying that.
July,
I will not be going back in July. It was so hot. So I would wear it on the places that I knew I burned, even in Florida, like my forehead, my nose, and my lips, and my ears. Like, that's where I was wearing sunscreen. So it wasn't really like cover my face, oh, I'm now pale, just as opposed to just, I don't want to burn and be miserable for the rest of the trip, so I'm just going to put it on.
So I still will be judged, though, if I go over there and wear, like, leggings, though, right?
Definitely. Only because you are curvier. So if you don't want to get stared at, don't wear leggings.
It don't matter what I wear, even if I wear something baggy.
Yeah, but because it's not, they don't wear tights. Like, so if it's literally
That's
on
true.
you, it's going to accentuate you. So you're better off wearing jeans or like pants.
My jeans are tight.
But that's still better because at least it's not tight.
Okay.
So
okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Because, like, even when I do here, like, I try to wear big shirts.
Right.
To, like, go
just wear
over
shorts.
it,
Like, you can find shorts. And granted, Lisa wore tights and her tie-dye shirt, and she was like, oh my God, totally getting, like, if you don't want to be stared at, then don't bring those things. But she had an excuse. She had been all over Southeast Asia, so she wore a lot of things that were like easy, quick. But we both noticed that it was hardcore on the everyone is dressed up. But if you don't care, like she did not care, then doesn't matter. Then wear whatever you want. But if you have told me that you were like, oh my God, don't want them staring, or they are going to stare, like, if you don't want them to overly do it, then just be mindful of what you're wearing.
I don't care if they stare. I get stares here. It's a thing I've learned to just, like, block out. Like, I can sense it.
So then if that doesn't matter to you, then it doesn't matter. Then wear whatever you want.
Yeah. It's just like, if you're doing it for too long.
Well, that's going to happen regardless.
If that makes sense. Well, that's true too. You know what? I'm just going to have to suck it up.
I was going to say, just go. Just go. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like I said, as long as you don't touch me, say anything to me, I don't care.
Exactly.
I dressed up because I was on vacation. I knew I was going to be taking pictures, not to mention my mom would have, like, drop kicked me from a mile away if I showed up in t-shirt and jeans every single day. She was like, you better be dressing up, put some makeup on, look nice, blah, 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 because she's that type of person.
Oh
so
and
I knew I was taking pictures and I was going to be posting. So I was like, I want to be able to look back and be like, wow, I looked nice. So that's kind of why I dressed up.
That trip.
Like, otherwise here, when I go places, I'm in t-shirt and jeans or, whatever. But I knew, and my friend had told me, she's like, they have a certain standard, and especially you being Black, that they're going to look at you. So present yourself in a way that, because sometimes, again, you're going to be the only Black person that they see. So I'm going to make it memorable. That's kind of what I was.
What about, like, heavier people?
I do wonder that too.
I did see, I just don't know about, like, clothing and stuff like that. I was thinking while I was there, like, where do they shop? Because they're everywhere. But they were dressed up too. So it's not like here where, once you get to a certain size, all the clothes become like grandma-like almost. Because as a
that's
size,
just the industry,
it's annoying.
Just their hatred towards fat people.
And exactly. And that's what I'm saying. It's like over there, they were still able to find, I don't know where they were shopping. Like, I don't know if they had those sizes the back there, because I didn't ask for sizes. You just kind of tried them on, or you brought up the size, like, medium or large, up to them and they would bring them. That was the one downside of not being able to try. I did buy a pair of cargo pants that were able to make it to my thighs and couldn't get over. So I was like, ooh, damn, either I need to lose weight which is probably not going to be enough to fit in those because they were so nice. Like, you don't understand. Like, I loved those cargo pants. I'm sad that they don't fit. Or I would just go back and be like, all right, I need to look for
Briana, you would just
larger
disappear
size.
if you lost any more weight.
I really would. And that's why I was like very sad that those cargo pants didn't fit.
Because I was going to say, you're pretty small.
So here I wear a size like 5 to 7, obviously, because women's sizes are never accurate. So if it's like a slimmer type pant, I can wear 7. I think I'm officially at a 7 now. But again, some of those 7s are really big,
Which
and I can
is
go back
small,
to 5.
by the way. 7 is quite small.
Yeah. So that's usually where it's my hips that are my problem. My legs, I can put anything on my legs. It's once they get to my hip portion, it's like, So I did find tops easier to wear. Again, they were very like, they do a lot of like sleeveless or they have sleeves. So tops, I think maybe buy a lot of tops while over there. But pants were a no-go.
What about like sweatshirts, like the hoodies?
Oh, yeah. I think generally baggy is in. Again, it's baggy. I don't like baggy hoodies. So I like my hoodies to be a little bit more fitting, but that was their style. Everything is baggy over there. So I feel like now, minus obviously the stretchy hip portion, would be the time for big girls to go to Korea and get their pants.
Well, I mean, because you said you're a 5 to 7 here, and you said the pants you bought were too.
Just one. Just one.
Just one. But what size were they?
I don't know. I just held them up to me. I couldn't try them on. I can go get one. I don't remember.
Did you? But what does the tag say? Like, the tag not say
I feel
small,
like I think it was small, medium, or large, and I knew small wasn't it. I'm pretty sure I picked medium for every single pant that I picked. And again, those cargo pants did not fit. So, but everything else, I bought a bunch of those baggy shorts that I bought. Those fit, and like those are nice. So if you got a large, they would probably fit you guys.
Because I'm a 12,
they
so
would.
I'm trying to think
7
like if
and
I wanted to buy pants there.
They are distant enough here, but if they're large and they're stretchy, that's the thing. Like a lot of them were stretchy. Ours are like, oh, I can't button this. I've got to go up a size, or oh, I can't button this. There's no give. But usually here, your larges will fit medium people, and medium will usually fit into large too because they're stretchy. Like if you're talking sweatpants wise, as long as they have the tie, we're pretty good. So a lot of them had the tie. So if I went up to large, it would still fit. It's just now the parts over my legs are ballooned. Like the medium that I bought, they ballooned to the point where I'm like, oh my God, I can't even wear these shorts without suspenders, or not suspenders, but spandex underneath it because everybody's looking at my cooch. So it's one of those like, okay, I bought it because I was like, oh, these are nice. But I definitely bought a lot more shirts and tops because the tops are very nice and I get complimented on them. Actually, shout out to Eric Nam. The top that I wore at Eric Nam's concert, I bought.
So you better shout him out.
I bought at in Korea. So yeah,
you're famous now, Briana.
Thanks, Eric. I love you. Thank you for coming to Orlando.
Only one that comes to Florida,
love it.
like
yes,
and consistently. I'm trying to figure out what else. I mean, do you have a favorite place that you went to that you'd like to go back to, or like a place
honestly,
you didn't?
I feel like I just didn't get to see. We saw a lot of Seoul, but we were because we only had I think we were there for 11 days.
You were there for 11 days and you still don't feel like you saw everything?
No, not at all.
Wow.
Because we spent time, like it took time to get there. So you got to count for travel. So once you travel there and then walk to that particular area and then spend the time there, we did it in a way that's like we made a Google map. So Lisa, shout out to her 110% because she's very organized when she travels. So she made a Google map. And then as we were here, like in the States or at school or at work, and things would come up on our TikTok because, again, your phone stalks you. So it would be like, oh my God, Think City in Seoul.
Is it the phone that stalks you?
Oh, 100%. Because once I started buying tickets, I started getting ads and TikToks and things.
Is that the phone is what I'm getting at? Or is it something else?
I think my phone is listening. Siri is listening. So I would take those and be like, oh, that's really cool. And we would go and put them on the Google map. So when we finally got
So what do you mean she made a Google map?
So you can make a Google map that you can share with your friends and add pins to.
I didn't know
Oh,
that.
Me
Neither did I.
neither.
That's why I was like, she's amazing. So
Okay.
I would send them to her and she would either add them or I could go in and add. And we made the black our hotel. So so the black pin was our hotel, and then we would just be like, food pins would be red, and like gifty things, like when we made those little purses, and I forgot the name of that. I probably should have looked at the stuff before I came on here. I can't remember the name of anything I did.
You're okay.
We would make purple and food. We would make, this and that. So we color coded to things like sites,
That's
this,
smart. Yeah.
castles, this, food, this, little gifty ideas or like coffee shops, this. And so when we got to Seoul, we'd look at the map and we'd be like, all right, we want to go to the palace or King Sejong and do that. Oh, we also tagged this over here and this over here. So we're going to do all of that in one day because we are in that area. Not saying we couldn't go back, but just in case we couldn't go back, we're going to try and hit up as much in that area as possible. So that's kind of how we did it. So I would love to kind of spend more time in those areas as opposed to be like, oh, we got to hit this, and this today because tomorrow we're going to be across town. We're not going to be able to come back and blah, 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 blah. And we planned like, okay, the DMZ we're going to do on the last day because that's the furthest out. So we're going to just pretty much say that's our entire day for the DMZ. But we ended up getting back at like 2. So we're like, oh, okay, and I think they dropped us back off in Hongdae. So we're like, all right, the last couple things we didn't get to see in Hongdae, I'm going to go and do. So it was definitely speedy. That was the longest time Lisa had ever spent in any country. She'd only spend usually like 1 to 2 days per country. So to have 11 days, we were like, oh my gosh, we have so much to do and so much to
it
hit
seems
up.
like a lot of time, but it's really not.
It really wasn't.
Yeah.
And by the time you travel there, and again, I didn't have that much problem with jet lag. So we got there and it was only an hour difference from Seoul to Singapore. So we would wake up really early in the morning and hit up, boom, 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 boom. We'd eat, we'd do our thing. But I will say, we were really bad with getting up in the morning towards like in the middle-ish portion, like maybe day 2 or day 3. So we were like getting up at like 10, 11, leaving at 12. So that is another thing. Like I would go back and I'd try and make the most of all of my days instead of like rushing. But yeah, we had a good time and we were able to hit up the areas that we wanted to hit. But there's places I would love to spend just more time, just like getting to that area and just kind of hopping around and going into different shops and eating different foods.
How was the border? Were there any like crash landing on you scenarios? No, I had to bring that up.
Were you there around the time where that one U.S. soldier crossed the border?
Yes, that happened the week before we got there. That was the talk of the tour of we're not going over there. We can't go over there right now. Blah 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 blah. So yeah, there were no crash landing. So people were definitely. I remember when that show came out, and they were like, "There's no way you could just walk across." And quite honestly, the lady even said there's no fence, there's no wall, so it's not hard. Now, granted, can they just like, I'm just gonna walk
shoot
around
you?
and blah blah blah? They can definitely shoot you, and I don't know how guarded.
I don't think that's what she was getting at. I think she meant you could easily cross, like with no physical barrier.
Yeah, but they could definitely easily shoot you as well. But I don't think it's. I don't know. I from what I gathered being there, it doesn't seem like it's as heavily guarded as like the U.S. Mexican border. I don't think it's as heavily guarded as some of the other borders that we are more familiar with. But at the same time, it is a very dangerous trip because there are a ton of mines. I think the problem are the mines, which they did portray in Crash Landing on You, that one scene where she's just running and she was able to miss all of them or whatever. Obviously, I don't think you get that lucky, but they do have mine signs everywhere, like caution mine, and you cannot take photos everywhere. walking up to the observatory, that was an area where we couldn't take photos. But when you got to the observatory, you could take as many photos as you like. When we looked at the train, I guess during the Korean War, there was a train in the midst of a battle. So on either side of the train, I think it's like 1,000 bullet holes or whatever in that train.
Oh, wow.
And you could take a photo of that, but behind us, we couldn't take a photo because there were guard towers. So they were very, I don't know the word. They tell you where you couldn't and could take photos. But they played a lot. I heard K-pop throughout my trip, but they also played a lot of Western music. But I heard so much BTS by the border, and I don't know if that was on purpose.
So weird.
It really was. One of the areas where they gave us like soybean ice cream, which was very surprisingly good. It sounds like it wouldn't be, but it was very good. Right at that station, they were playing like Danger and just like all.
How appropriate.
Oh, it was.
Oh,
it wasn't like Permission to Dance and Dynamite. It was like Danger and Converse High and like all. And we were like, oh, okay, like I hear you guys playing BTS over here. So yeah, it was interesting. But no crash landing
That's
on you.
interesting.
Like besides that,
I wonder if Jin and J-Hope have to deal with listening to their songs.
I wonder.
Like group songs
it
from the
depends on where
military.
they're stationed. True, and that's
true.
to go back to my point, because I know we were talking about that earlier. The bus ride in, we had certain checkpoints, so you have to bring your passport with you when they come on the bus. Like the soldiers come on the bus and they ask you your name. Perfect English, mind you, but like it was, oh my God, he was so fine. Like the first one, and the guide lady, shout out to Grace. I know I'm shouting out everybody. Grace, she was so sweet. She was so like, oh my gosh. That's the one that all the tour guides were all like a fan of. Like he was very cute, and very sweet. And it's so funny because he comes on and they would be speaking Korean, and then they switch. And he's like, "What's your name?" Like, oh, like sir, wow. And it was so like his voice was so nice. My God. And so yeah, he went to the bus. Thank you. Enjoy your trip, whatever. And they got off, and but we did that twice. So they check your passports 2 times going into the DMZ area and leaving, just to make sure that
you couldn't get enough of the soldiers once. You had to experience them twice.
Exactly. It was gorgeous. Just gorgeous people. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a good time at the DMZ. If you ever go to Seoul, do recommend that you go just to get the history, because America is very involved. They show you lots of videos and they tell you, like, I don't want to say propaganda-esque. It's propaganda in the best possible way, if that can even be a thing. They are very, we want reunification. Everything is about reunification.
And I think they always had.
Huh?
Right? Didn't they always want unification? Even now, or no?
No, they do. It's just when relationships were better. So there was a time where relationships between North and South Korea were better, and they, would trade and talk. But then once stuff started to kind of, escalate, not de-escalate, things have gotten a little bit more like, we don't really talk. We don't allow family members to visit. We don't allow, so they went into the details of that. And as a person of like who loves history, if you know your history about the Korean War, and you know how like when they're explaining what is like, okay, we're just kind of amping that up, and what is like actual, you can tell the difference between when they're just trying to be like, but I like I said, that tour, unlike Americanized tours, that tour did a very good job of not being very propaganda-esque. Like, oh my God, those North Koreans are da-da-da. They were very sympathetic and very like, here's what's going on there. Very just history-based. Like what is it? What's the big car brand? Is it Hyundai? Hyundai.
Yeah.
I didn't realize until I took that tour that he was from North Korea, and he would help them so much. He brought over.
I didn't know that was a real person, so you actually taught me something
exactly.
as well.
So there you go. He brought over 1,001 cows. He stole his dad's cow to come and sold it to come to South Korea, and never forgot about it. And so when relations, this is again what they were saying, when relations were better, he brought over 1,001, 1,000 to give to the people of North Korea, and the 1 to repay the cow back to his dad. So it was very nice. They showed us like during when we were looking through the binoculars into North Korea where the Hyundai factory was. Because again, when times were good, they had factories over there and the North Koreans would work and da 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 da. And it was great. I learned a lot on that tour. So a lot of people are like, you went to the DMZ? I'm like, yeah, because it was just interesting. We went into the tunnel. That's something a lot of people can't say. The tunnel that North Korea tried to dig to get to Seoul. The third tunnel, I think is what it was called. We were at one point 173 meters away from the midline that divided North and South Korea in that tunnel. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever done because, you have to pretty much not crouch, but lean over and walk through that tunnel. But it was also really cool to just experience that and be a part of that and see what that was. So
was that safe to do?
Hopefully. I mean, I'm still here. So
She's talking to us.
if you're claustrophobic, do not do it. And there were people that were claustrophobic. The tunnel leading to the North Korean tunnel was built by South Korea. So it's tall enough for you to walk. It's enclosed. There's no windows. You are walking underground. So you are, I think it was like 300 and something meters under the surface. You are walking to until you get to that tunnel. And then you walk, I forgot however many meters to get to that first concrete wall where you can look through the little window into North Korea. So this is fully underground. So yes, if
so
there
you
was an
never
earthquake,
went into North Korea. You just got very,
no,
very close.
You got very close, very close.
Okay.
Like I said, the closest was 173 meters. So if you're a fan of track and field or football, 100 meters is just that straight. You watch Usain Bolt and then a one curve around. And maybe halfway through the next one. So less than a full track. So a full track is 400 meters. So from that concrete wall, so like not even a 200 meter on a track is that curve and the straightaway. So it's less than that. That's how close you are. So it was wild to kind of be that close to I guess you can say forbidden area, because very few people have ever traveled into North Korea for fun, so.
Well, I thought I saw a news article that they're opening up their borders for foreign tourists.
Oh, they do, but it's very regulated. Was his name Otto? The guy, the American.
No, you're talking about, I don't know his name either.
But know what? Yeah, he went there on a trip and, essentially it's just like going to Russia right now. Those areas where we have high tension, I don't know why Americans, for one thing, are going to those places because they will use whatever excuse, even if you are innocent, in their eyes, they'll do it. They want a leverage. They want a essential hostage that they can use to get America to do whatever. So I would never take that risk.
That one guy who crossed, the American soldier, they're returning him.
He's already here. He just got back here Thursday.
And probably in prison.
Probably. They said that they didn't find I also think he might have been a little, sent there.
Okay, I don't know the story about that, so I don't want us to get too into it.
He's back. But I from what I understood and what my parents had said, because I called them after, like, did something happen that I didn't know about? And they were like, yeah, some dude ran across. It doesn't seem like he's 100% there. And again, the portion where he went, so this is what Grace described to us too. Again, there's no fence. They're all standing in the same room. Like they're staring at each other. And then you just walk across like a line on the floor and you're now in North Korea. Like it's very not like, oh my God, barbed wire, walls, guns. Yeah. It's just like, so he just kind of ran across a courtyard, essentially is how she described it to us. And they just, handcuffed him and brought him in. So, that was a really cool, definitely recommend the DMZ tour if you go to, and it was cheap. I think it was like $50. And they picked you up at the hotel, dropped us off where the bus picked us up in Hongdae, and then drove us straight there.
How was Hongdae for you? Because I know that's more known for like its nightlife, and it seemed like y'all didn't really. Did you experience the nightlife?
We did not.
Because I don't think you're a club person, so I don't know if we went to the club. Because
I'm not a club person. I've gone to clubs per se. That trip wasn't about going to clubs for me. We wanted to fit as much in terms of like, I guess, the touristy stuff that we didn't really do the club scene. We walked by, so I was in Itaewon, but I think it was a weekday. So the clubs were open, but they weren't filled with people. And again, we left. We only spent one full weekend, and one of those weekends we went to Busan. So on the days where clubbing would be there, we were doing like bigger touristy things. So we were in Busan for one weekend, and then the last weekend we were there, it was like, I think we did the DMZ tour, and then we were just like, let's just relax and kind of chill and take it easy. So Hongdae, I think the same day we did the DMZ tour, after we got off the bus, I was like, well, I'm already here. I'm going to go kind of shop around a little more, because that's a very like souvenir friendly area. So if you're looking for souvenirs or just like really cool knickknacks to buy, Hongdae was like the spot. And so I was walking around, and a lot of the buskers were out there. A lot of the dance groups were out there. So all the ones that you kind of see like dancing to K-pop and whatever were out there dancing. So I kind of watched that. Clubs were up and running. So we did see clubs, but we just didn't go in.
That's one thing you usually see online, like when they talk about like the whole letting certain foreigners in and out. So I didn't know if that also changes your experience because you didn't go to the clubs, and I didn't know if you ever go back, if you would want to.
I probably would, just to be like, I experienced it, but again, I'm there
it's not
for
a big deal to you.
If I miss out on a club, fine. I'd rather eat food than go clubbing. Plus, the music that we did hear them play was like, no, it wasn't like dance club music. It's like freaking Neo and Usher, and like, what am I supposed to do in the club to these songs? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they played very like that. I will say,
they don't dance like we do, but like we also don't dance anymore. And I feel like social media has ruined that, just because everyone's quick to film someone and make fun of their dancing.
True.
No, I'm serious. And
you're right.
That makes me sad. I'm like, I'd rather just be at a club with a stranger. I don't care how they're dancing, but we're having fun. I'm not there to make fun of you. We're there to have fun.
I feel like the clubs that I've gone to recently, you can still dance and have a good time. I feel like people don't really watch you as much as you think. Like we do, but they're more hyping people up. And at least that's on the West. I'm not sure how they are in Korea. But in the West, you have the people that don't really know how to dance, but they'll still hype you up because you're brave enough to do it, you know? I don't think a lot of people, because even at raves, like, people videotape, but you don't post it for the likes. You post it just to be like, you know, on your personal socials, at least from what I've seen. So I feel like for the most part, the music, what you hear on people talking about TikTok, where like the music is very I felt that listening, because we walked by them while they were going on. We just never went. Like in Itaewon, we walked by and it was like, oh, this is like, the music that they're playing is like old stuff here, but you know, it's a vibe, I guess.
And then so you heard more like American music than like Korean music?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
That's something my friend stated. She's like, K-pop is not it's not big over there. Like, a lot of people, they listen to it, but it's not like, oh my gosh, K-pop. It's a very niche part of, you know, I guess, Korean culture. And
I was also wondering for like the K-hip hop scene as well.
Oh, that I don't know.
Like, it's just
here
non-existent.
What you can do is go to those charts. Go to Spotify. Go to Apple Music and look at the top 100 songs in Korea. And not none of them, but a lot of them aren't K-pop. A lot of them are Western songs. So like, if you go to the top 100 songs in Korea right now, you'll see K-pop songs, but a lot of them are like Taylor Swift and, you know, Beyonce and Bruno Mars, and
right now,
they love Western music. So kind of like how we love K-pop here for the most part, but they're still listening to a lot of Western or a lot of like English, British artists. It's not really K-pop that's dominating their charts.
Well, I'm on it right now, and right now it is. So like top 100, at least on Apple Music, is Akmu. Both songs.
But see, for a K-pop stan, Akmu is not the first group you're thinking of. I'm talking of Akmu is K-pop, but it's not K-pop. Like, they have their Korean artists, just like they love ballads. We heard a lot of ballads while we were in Korea, like in grocery stores and in malls, like that. I wouldn't consider that K-pop. I'm considering K-pop like EXO and SHINee and BTS and Stray Kids and all of that. Like, you didn't hear that. You heard not traditional Korean, just Korean music, like
I
Korean.
understand what you mean. Yeah, a lot of the,
You know what I mean?
like ballads, like you were saying, and things
not
like that.
mainstream. That's what I'm thinking of. Like your regular artists, singer, songwriter artists, like Akamu. I wouldn't consider them K-pop. You know what I mean? They're just a regular Korean artist that sing pop music or sing, R&B or whatever alternative-y kind of music. You know what I mean? Like K-pop has a sound.
That's understandable. Yes.
You weren't hearing like the choreo dance, blah, 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 blah sounds there. You're just hearing like their generic, it sounds awful. I hate that word, but they're generic Korean artists is what I kind of heard. So,
okay.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, because like I was saying, those are the top. They're in the top two. I guess this is from the same EP by the picture. And then 3 is Jungkook's 7 with Lotto. 4 is Rise, SM's new group, Get a Guitar. 5 is ETA. 6 is IVE. I know IVE is popular over there. Either way. 7 is New Jeans, Super
If
Shy.
I heard that one song one more time, I forgot which IVE song it was. I need to look it up. They played that on repeat. It's the one that had the meme with them like smacking into things. I think it is I Am.
I don't know.
It's like big stick. That one.
I think
they played it everywhere. Like everywhere. And they played Super Shy a lot. So there are artists.
Which I'm surprised that's in 7 because ETA is 5 from
really?
New Jeans, at least on the chart I'm reading. 8 is Big Naughty Vancouver 2. 9 surprisingly is John Sony, Fast Forward, and then 10 is the Smoke song that's been, because of Challenge with Dynamic Duo and Eyoung-G because of Street Woman Fighter 2. So that's at least the top 10 that's showing me out of the 100 in Korea.
They have them. Like, I'm not saying that they don't play it. It's just not like as huge, right? They still have their Western songs that they listen to, or their European, because again, US is really the only country really that just plays US people songs. We don't branch out a lot, which is kind of freaking annoying. But you go to Canada and you're hearing like Western, but also like English artists and stuff like that, or French artists.
It depends where you are, because I notice when I go to certain places in Orlando, like the Walmart next to the K-pop store, sometimes when I go in there, like they'll play Spanish music, but because Florida has a big...
But let me put it this way.
I know what you mean as far as the radio,
Spanish and regular American artists together, because those are our 2 top languages. We'll hear Spanish music on the radio. Like I consider Spanish music also like American music. I'm talking about like French artists, and I'm talking about like European English artists like Stormzy and oh god, now I'm blanking on all my English artists. But like, you know what I'm talking about. Like, we don't listen to a wide variety of music. We really don't. Like, we are American artists only. But then we like to boast like these award shows. We're like, oh my god, the best music in the world. It's just like the World Series. All of those teams are American teams. Like, we don't see Japanese and Dominican teams in the World Series. But we like to brag that like, oh my god, we have the best music in the world. It's like, no, you're not playing world music. You're playing American artists only, or English artists that have come over to America to try to make it big. So and
that's true. And even they don't really get that much, because there's tons of like people of color or even black people. And even if they're not from America,
I mean, we have Asian artists here. Eric Nam is finally coming over and trying to make it big here, but he had to go to Korea first. He has to go to Korea, build a name, then come over and still grab those K-pop fans, but also grabbing in regular R&B artist fans. So we're not as diverse here as we like to say we are in terms of music.
I always say diversity in America is fake. Okay,
100%.
And I've been noticing that more when I get older, and I'm just pushing more onto that. Like, it's truly fake here.
Yeah, TikTok has really helped blow up a lot of those foreign songs here. Like, there was that Vietnamese song that all the Korean artists were dancing to.
Is it the Gentle one? Or is that a different song?
No, that's Filipino.
Okay. So I wasn't sure. I just know I like that song.
Them too. So they have also started to kind of branch out. But I forgot what it was. But it was the song that Rip Moonbin and Sanha had become really famous with. Like, that was their large viral video just prior to him passing. It was to that song. And then you had that, I think they're a Malaysian group that started to blow up on TikTok with her classy twerking that she did in that. I don't know if you haven't seen it, I have to find it and send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me.
Hilarious. It started
I know what
blowing
you're talking
up.
about. I was
You
like,
know what I'm
is
talking about?
this?
Like,
Yeah.
I was laughing so hard, but the song was so catchy, and they're both like gorgeous. And if it's not for TikTok, sometimes I don't see a lot of those.
Or even like that new song that's blowing up, the water one. Isn't the artist South African?
Yes, South African, right? And you've seen, well, today I saw, what is her name, from CLC, dance to it online. And so it's like that's online. Social media is really getting us to a lot of music and culture. Because otherwise we're just stuck. That's why I stopped listening to the radio, because I'm like, it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. I'm like, I'm tired of it. So you start to branch out.
It's just like, yeah, I would like some
Yes.
diversity in my music. Like,
I feel like that would make us so much better. It would allow for more, I don't know, it would make things it would challenge creativity if we allowed artists from other countries to come. And even if we don't understand the lyrics, like I don't understand a lot of Afro beats music, but their beats are fire. And
I
so
love
the songs are
Afrobeat
great.
songs.
Yes,
They're so
Afro beats are
catchy.
so good. And then,
yeah,
it's
I've been
so
meaning to
good.
get more
10
into
out of
that.
10 do recommend just listening. That's what I was telling you. Sometimes I'll just go onto iTunes and click on like the world station, or click on these top 10 or top 100 of the countries and just listen to it, because it gets so boring here hearing the same like 30, or not even 30, 10 artists on the radio all day, every day. I'm like, it's annoying. So
Yeah. Even just for finding artists here. Because like we were just saying earlier, there are a ton of artists here in America that do not get plays because it's not mainstream. And it's like people don't realize how much the music industry really gatekeeps to a certain amount of people. And like, it's always funny. That's why a lot of us are laughing about like how an article came out, like how they can't find their next superstar, when they were talking about like Ice Spice and Olivia Rodrigo. And I'm like, y'all don't try. And you're still on the old, like, I almost want to say 80s system of how you push artists, and it's not different. Like, y'all don't know how to use social media.
Just play music. Like, just play music. Hey, we got this new song from this up and coming. Like, if the artist has, now granted, I know some of them have to pay into the system, but just play music. Like, it's funny because TikTok has really brought a lot of these unknown artists into the light, because it goes viral, and then the radio's like, oh, right, that's going viral, I'm going to play that now. And that's sometimes the only way some of these artists can really burst through because of that. So
one more question about your Asia trip in general. I know we touched on it a little bit when we talked about the feast for what she can eat, but like, how did you enjoy? Obviously, you said you enjoyed the food, but like, was it like, what were the portion size? Like, what did you think? Because, especially with Korea, they always talk about how the food is a little bit spicier there. Was it easy for you to also go find places to eat? Because we didn't talk much about your language barrier, but I didn't know if that was a struggle with you finding restaurants to eat. Like, if you stuck more to the chains, or did you try to do mom and pops?
We did. So chains are a thing, but they're not huge. Like,
not like here in America.
There's really not that many chains there, at least that I don't know if they are chains. But we went into a lot of mom and pop places. And again, the menus usually weren't in English, but we were so familiar with like the foods and street foods in particular, or we'd see people eating stuff and we're like, oh, that looks really good. We would just kind of go in and just like look at the menu, and then just pick from there, like, oh, this looks really good. Or we translate the menu and be like, oh, this has this, 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 and this in it. And we would just, igochuseo, and then they would bring it to us and we would just try it. So I will say they close a lot of places early. That is the one difference between, at least in Seoul versus the States. Singapore, we ate a lot. Like, they gave you a lot of food, and the food was filling. It wasn't this like, I don't know. I feel like maybe food in the States here don't really fill you up because they're not nutritious.
It's what they
it's not nutritious. So you're eating nutritious food in Singapore. So like, you eat 1 or 2 meals and you're like, wow, I'm actually like full. Like, I'm still full from earlier. So in Seoul, we would eat, but we went to that food hall close to our hotel a lot because they were open relatively, not late, but they were open at 8 and we knew what they had. And we could just go in there and be like, all right, we want this, 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 or this. And we could pick from multiple areas. It was literally like a food court pick. And then we just sit at a table or bring it back to our hotel and just eat. So we did a lot of mom and pop or just like convenience store foods because it was just easier. So that would probably be another thing I do, is to just sit down at a lot more restaurants, because I think we were nervous a lot of the time, like, oh my God, I don't know. So the places we did find, we got really comfortable and we would just kind of eat there. But
Stayed there.
The food was really good. I wouldn't say, and again, I like spicy food, and people who are like, oh my God, that's so spicy, and I'm eating it, I'm like, this is not spicy. Like, I'm used to Jamaican spicy. Jamaicans, have Indian has a lot of influence in Jamaica, so we know what spicy is. Because if you think Indian food is spicy, Indian food is spicy. Like, that is the one culture where I can be like, damn, this is actually kind of hot. Whereas, like, American spicy is not spicy. I can't think of another culture that like says their food is spicy and it's actually spicy. So to me,
no,
Indian and Jamaican to me are like actually spicy. But Korean, I didn't eat anything there that I was like, like hot. The kimchi was not. The kimchi was so much better in Korea than here. And I know they're both based off the same culture, but I don't know what ingredients were the Korean American restaurants are using, because I get it. Like, they're different ingredients that they can find, so they have to adapt. But I loved the kimchi in Korea. It was just, I don't want to say mild, but it wasn't as acidic as the kimchis that, at least in Florida. Maybe I need to go to California and New York and Atlanta and have kimchi there to see if it tastes any better. But I loved it there. The banchan was really good.
Which are
in those restaurants,
dishes,
and they were all
one
different.
knows what that
yeah,
means.
Side dishes. Sorry,
I know. I just have to be like, just in case people aren't like.
Thank you for being my translator. So it tasted a lot like they were just so fresh. Everything was just so fresh. And I think that's what made the food just super good. It was made in-house. You could see it half the time being made in front of you. So yeah, I love the food.
I want to try to find like a dessert place, because I'm obsessed with desserts, and I'm obsessed with totok, which is like that.
I love that too.
Like,
hotok,
not a pancake, but it's
I
the
did
one
have
with
that again
with the cinnamon inside.
Made.
I love getting it at the Korean festival. Like, that's all I get. It's like, when I go, I'm like, all right, where's the station for that?
Tasted pretty similar. So whatever you get here tasted pretty similar to whatever you get there. We had it fresh off the grill,
because I love it.
We went to that. And again, I'm forgetting all the names. It's the famous market in Seoul, the one that has the Netflix lady. If you watch that Netflix show, Street Foods, Street Foods, she was on that show. We stopped at her stall and had dumplings, but we also were in that area and we ate hotok there, and it was so good. I mean, we watched them make it in front of us. She served it to us. I mean, it was burning our mouths. That's how fresh and hot it was. It was so good. Everything in that market was made by hand, like right in front of you. We had a mung bean like bread or pancake thing there. Super good. Everything was just delicious. We really didn't we had those candied fruit. I don't know if you've seen those. I had never seen those until we went to Seoul. It's like strawberries, grapes, mandarin oranges, and they put them on skewers, and then they dip them in candied like melted sugar, and it hardens and it turns into this like essentially candied fruit. And again, it's actual fruit that they dipped in candy. It was really sweet, granted, but it was just so good.
Plugging BTS, that would explain why, because I play the BTS like island game, and in the newer levels, like they have it to where you have to hit the strawberries to where they like caramelize in that sense. So that would actually make a lot of sense why that was added in there.
We saw that in multiple places at food carts. They had those like candied fruit skewers, and again, it was sweet, but you didn't feel guilty because it's actual fruit and it's real sugar. Like, you see them melt the sugar in front of you and they roll it in, and then it cools and they hand it to you, and it was just like, wow, this is delicious. It was messy, but it was delicious. The ice cream, the really long, I don't know if you've ever seen them, they're like super tall ice cream cones. We didn't end up getting into those because it was like hot and we didn't want it to melt all over us, But everything was just really good and really fresh. We really enjoyed it. All the food there was good and cheap. Again, just you didn't overdo it. So that like candied fruit thing, I could imagine that being at Disney and them selling it to you for like $12 because it's cool and niche. But we're getting it. I mean, it was 2001, so like less than $1 essentially. So yeah, you could eat really well. Street food was cheap. So if you want the real Korean and Singaporean, because again, Singapore is famous for its hawkers. You that's where you'd probably need like actual money. Not a lot of those, actually, I don't think any of those places took card. So you would get your won, your cash, and just go out there and buy. If you want a cheap meal, less than $5, you go out there to the hawker stations or the street food vendors and you buy from them. America's slacking. That's all I gotta say. That's all. What I learned from traveling over there is we don't have it as good as we think we are, or we do.
Yeah, no, we're going through a lot. I learned that at an early age because I was privileged enough to start traveling out the country when I was 16. So I'd never been to like an Asian country, but like I've been to like Italy. There's other places I've been to. I'm blanking.
Yeah.
I've been to Paris. It's been so long. My favorite trip was when I went to Australia and New Zealand. I want to go back to New Zealand so badly. That country's so beautiful. And like, especially back then, I didn't know much about New Zealand until I went there. It's like everything was beautiful. Even like all the hotels, I feel like were like 5 stars, even though they were like 3 stars.
They actually care.
Can I work over here? What's it like moving there? Someone let me know if you live in New Zealand.
The hotel we stayed at was a Marriott. Like, we stayed at a Seoul Marriott. You're thinking Marriott here. Marriott here in the States is considered not a low-end hotel, but like mid-range hotel.
I think Hilton's like the good one.
Hilton and Hyatt are all like, and Four Seasons are all like super high, whereas Marriott would be considered like a mid-range hotel. And again, we spent 11 days and we spent personally $600 and something, which would have been what, like 3 or 4 days in the States. So, I mean,
yeah,
we were slacking. I didn't even have to go to Seoul and Singapore to know how bad it is here. I go to Canada, I just go hop across the border and be like, wow, America, you are struggling. Like, what is going on?
It's only getting worse.
It is. So, I mean, I loved it. I would totally go back. And I think what really made it nice is I have friends in both countries. I have friends in Singapore and in Seoul, so they were able to really like help me out. I really did enjoy my time in Singapore. It was just such a beautiful country and it was just so nice. It felt very laid back and lax. It reminded me a lot of Jamaica, not in the architecture, but just in the type of food. They were both colonized by England, so they both have that influence. They both have a large Indian population. Jamaica's got a large Indian population, and so does Singapore. So their food tastes like I was eating it and tastes the same. My friend thought it was so funny. She's like, "Oh, you've got to try Milo." I was like, "Girl, I grew up on Milo. Like Milo is a staple." Or was it my parents' email address has the word Milo in it? So I was like,
what's Milo?
It was such a huge.
I don't know what that is either.
You guys have never had Milo? It's a chocolate drink. It literally is just chocolate powder, and typically you can mix it with water or milk. You put condensed milk in it, sweeten it up, and it's literally like a chocolate milk. But it's so good. It tastes legit. It's not like Nesquik where it's like that overly sweet and that leaves that weird film on your tongue. At least that's what Nesquik did for me. Milo is just, it's good and it actually tastes like cocoa, like powder. My parents were like, growing up, we should just take a spoonful of it and just eat it. You can't do that with Nesquik. They make candy. It's just super good. Highly recommend it. It's a green can. You can find it at honestly any Hispanic or English or island Caribbean store, any ethnic food store you can pretty much find Milo in. At Chinese food markets and stuff like that, I've seen Milo in there too. So yeah, totally recommend it. Do it with milk, condensed milk. And so milk and then condensed milk is sweetened. Do not pour it directly into condensed milk. You will get diabetes. But it's super good. So it was funny because they were like, "Oh, you know what Milo is?" And I was like, "Yeah." It's a huge drink in Jamaica. ball it up and give it to you. It's good.
It's funny, especially early when I was talking about crossing cultures together. See, there's just so much similarities that we're all finding out through
Colonization.
online. Yeah, like traveling.
I mean, it's real. Like, as bad as colonization was, we realize due to it, we are a lot closer in terms of food and culture than we like to realize. So, and I know I said that a lot to my friend in Singapore. I was like, y'all's culture is very similar to Jamaican culture. I mean, they had curry, we have curry. They had Milo, we have Milo. The fruits that they have tasted similar to some of the fruits that, we have in Jamaica. So it was nice. I enjoyed it.
So before we go, because we've been here for so long, I know y'all want to get onto your day. Briana, do you want to, I mean, you don't have to. Do you want to rate your trips or no?
10 out
you
of
don't
10.
have to put them like, okay, for both of them?
Really do. Like, there was no, I didn't feel stressed. And I don't want to, like, usually vacations, there's an ounce of stress. I really didn't. I mean, I suffer from like health problems too. Like, I have high blood pressure. I did not have a single like headache or feeling of like how I would if I normally did when I was over there. It just felt good. Like, I felt happy for the first time in a really long time, which is sad to say. Yeah, like, it really did feel like vacation. And I really had a good time. I didn't think about the states minus comparing, like, oh my God, the US. That's all we kept saying is like, the US would never, that's all we kept saying over there. But I really didn't, I didn't watch the news at all. I mean, minus, some of the things I would see on Twitter. I didn't know what was going on in the US, and it felt great. Like, it really did feel good to just not know what was going on. I know people like, just stop watching the news. I was like, as a Black person and a person of color in the US, I can't not watch the news. I need to know what's going on and what, who's going to, punch me for walking down the street. So it's like, I didn't feel that at all.
Or the guns.
That was another thing. Like, we didn't worry about guns. We'd hear loud pops and we were like, oh shoot. But everybody else was like, calm.
That's on trauma.
It really, we said that. We were like, we are so traumatized right now. We're alert. I would call my mom walking back to the hotel. I remember I went to go meet up with Lisa in Singapore. This was before we went to Seoul. And it was like 9, 10 o'clock. I think it was 10, 11 o'clock. I was walking back and my mom's like, are there people outside? Like, are you by yourself? Do you have your keys in your hand? I'm like, Ma, I don't got to worry about any of that stuff. Like, nobody's bothering me here. There's little old ladies doing their little walks. People are jogging. Like, it's late. But it was just, I didn't feel like I had to watch my back. Like, I didn't feel like.
That's a good feeling.
It really was. It really was. I didn't feel like I was going to get.
I don't know what that feels like. I hope I do one day.
I hope one day I can get to that point where I feel like I don't have to look. I mean, and again, you should be aware of your surroundings everywhere. I'm not trying to advocate for, okay, you left the States, good. You don't have to watch your back. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get kidnapped.
Exactly.
Like human trafficking is still a thing.
Right.
But I just didn't feel like on that level of like, ooh. Like, I was still aware of my surroundings, but I wasn't like, ooh, what's that? Who's that? Why are they walking behind me? Like, like, I felt safe.
That's good.
Yeah. Like, it was so funny. I'll probably make this my last, I guess, story. Min, my friend in Korea, we were trying to meet up and I shared my location and she messaged me. She's like, why are you doing that? And I said, so that way we can meet up. I was like, it's easier. And just so we know where we're at, you can meet. She's like, first of all, that doesn't work in Korea. So Korea bans sharing location. So you cannot. And I didn't know that. And I was like, that's so interesting how that works. I was like, in the States. She's like, why? She's like, when you did that, I thought it was so weird. And I was like, really? Because here it's so normal. I have my parents' location. My parents have my location. I have my location shared with like 2 other friends, Lisa being one of them, and my other friends.
To where it's still on, so like I can see like if I go into that app, like where he is, because he likes to travel a lot.
Normal.
So
it's normal. Like, we don't check it. Like, I don't, unless I'm like trying to contact my parents and be like, where are they? Why aren't they answering? Like, are they at home? Like, is everything okay? But yeah, she's like, no, we don't do that here. And she's like, why is that? I was like, because it's a safety thing. Like when we part ways, I want to make sure you got home, or, we're just like, oh, I'm on my way. And, 15 minutes go by and I don't know where you are. Like, are you okay? Or I'm out on a date with a friend and I share my location. Like, hey, I'm going on this date. We're supposed to be here, here, and here. I'll text you, whatever. You could see that when you go to bed and wake up, all right, she made it home, we're good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not still like on the side of the road.
Or even like the texting thing, like where you are. Like when I go out to places, like every time Precious mom does my hair, she ends really late. So she's always like, text me when you get home.
When you get home. Yeah, it's a common phrase. She's like, wow, I didn't think about it, but it makes sense. I wish we had that here. She left saying that, but I'm like, you don't need to. Like, you really don't need to have that there. Like, not saying that people don't get kidnapped or whatever in Korea at all. I'm not trying to say that, but it's a safer environment there. You're walking around later at night. Granted, nothing good happens late at night, but the chances of being, mugged or whatever are late or not late, are none. So it's, or not none, slim to none. It doesn't happen often.
I was going to say, maybe it's lower.
Yes, it's lower
than like here.
People were on their phones, like, I'm not saying that doesn't happen here, but we're so on buses, like, if you see something, say something, like, make sure like, be aware of your surroundings on a blah, 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 for fill in the blank reasons. Like, you're in a mall, you're like, oh God, somebody could come in at any point and blow me away because, we have guns everywhere here.
Yeah.
You didn't have that feeling in Singapore or Seoul. Like, I didn't feel, I felt it just because I'm American, but it was just in the back of my mind. Again, it's the trauma of being here. Like, oh dang, there's a lot of people here, like, who you don't know who it is, but those guns are banned. Guns are banned. If you have a gun, you are doing something wrong. Like, that's the difference between here and Seoul and Singapore.
Which is odd to me that I'm seeing them more represented in K-dramas that I'm watching. But
right. But even then, you watch them, and even cop dramas and mafia dramas, like, most of the big battles are knife fights and bat fights and whatever pieces of plywood. If they do have a gun and they shoot it, it's like it's a shock. Here, you shoot a gun in our TV shows and we're like, it's just another Saturday. Like, it's not weird. And over there, when a gun is shot in their TV shows, it's weird. It's jarring. It's shocking. Like, they're like, why did you do it? Like, it's not a commonplace thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a normal everyday. People actually have a reaction when a gun is shot in a TV show. Like, what are you, like, why was that? What did you do? You discharged your weapon? Like, wow. I've watched enough dramas to know and see that they actually respond to it. Like, why did you do that? Or you're gonna there's a consequence for it. And I forgot what I was even in a webtoon, a gun was shot in a webtoon and they were like, I knew you were not from here because that you had a gun. Like, I knew something was off. Like, it was like, whoa, we can't even get that. We got guns in every other cartoon, comic, whatever. Like, so it's wild. It's wild.
We should try to end more on a positive, maybe, or do we just want to end it here? I know.
Go to Korea.
Okay.
Live your K-pop dream and your K-drama lifestyle. But do it respectfully. Don't go over there thinking like, oh my God, everything is K-pop. Like, oh my God, I'm going to meet. Don't do the whole, like, I'm going to go meet a Korean man.
Please don't go over there trying to meet your Korean
do not
oppa.
Meet your Korean oppa.
Stop.
It's not going to happen. Korean men and American men are the exact same. Like, they are both trash. Men are trash.
It's a global issue. It's a global issue.
I'm kidding. But not really.
Loki, she's not.
So,
are you?
But, go and have fun. Be respectful. Be respectful of their culture. Go and embrace their culture, go have fun. Don't let anybody disrespect you either. Like, but just know, if you're American, and especially Black American, and even Muslim American, they have,
or I'll just say like those minorities in general, if you're not from America, because sometimes they like to, do they treat
dark colored people?
There we go.
Because I point out Black and Muslim because obviously we know what Americans have put out about Muslim people. And of course, everything news-wise when it comes to Muslim countries is usually negative. And you have to remember that a lot of these countries only get their idea of who you are from television and movies. And sadly, Muslim and Black people are not portrayed in a great light in any of those. So when you go over there, while it can be upsetting if you are faced with some sort of adversity in that culture, also have to be understanding in the sense that all they see about you is what they see on the news and in movies. And sadly, white supremacy has led both of those to be awful. So, that's what I was saying with the dressing up. We are seen, you see it. They say it all the time in K-dramas or in K-pop. Like, to be gangster. It's like, ooh, the Black, have the Black feeling. Like, I feel Black. It's like, what does that even mean? Like, what are you talking about?
I don't know, because it's
exactly,
they view it
and
as
that's
being
what I'm
cool
saying.
And I guess out there, but at the same time being dangerous.
But that's what I'm saying. We're the cool, dangerous. Like, ooh, they got the swag. That's the word that they still freaking use to this day. Like, agreed. It's like, ooh, he's got that swag. Actually, JK said it the other day in his 7 dance practice. It was like the jacket behind the scenes, whatever. And he was watching the dancers and he's like, wow, how do they make it look so like cool? And I'm like, I know what you're saying. I know. Armies don't take that. I'm not out here trying to mean that maliciously.
No, because I didn't get a chance to talk about that, because I noticed also a difference that goes into my dance thing earlier about American, especially when you watch Black dancers and the Korean dancers, because you can see just the Korean ones are more, even though they're doing the moves, it's still
it's tight
in a way. You can see it in 3D because it's a mixture of both. But you also see it in that same dance practice, like behind the scenes you're talking about for 7, when he was practicing with the Korean dancers compared to the Jam Republic American ones.
We have the rhythm and the flow.
Or Australia and New Zealand. I don't know if they're actually American or not, so please excuse me.
Put it this way: Jam Republic versus Manic Queen. I don't remember the name. When they had that move, remember that when they were doing the shoulder move and they found that different. They were like, "Wow, how do they do that?" And then you watch both performances, and one of them just had a nice they had a rhythm. It was flowy. It was loose. Whereas the Manic Queens, it still felt very stiff. That's the word I'm looking for. Minorities, islanders, because I'm sorry, those Polynesians, they are brother, sister with African. I don't care what you say. We are super close in terms of...
Well, yes, I found that one TikTok thing that was going on about how they also have a slur for us, but...
Oh, I know. Everybody does. I'm not stupid. I know everybody does. Everybody does. But if you look at the Aboriginals, they don't like them. Look at how they treat them. They are Black, okay? They are Blacker than you and me.
That also goes into colorism, though, too.
Everybody likes to try and get away from their Blackness, but the Polynesians, if you look at the Aboriginals and the historic pictures of Polynesians, they are dark. They Black, okay? I don't care what you say. So, we see it. And there is a certain, even with our cultures and the way our rhythm and the music that we create, it is very rhythmic. So we have a rhythm. And there's something you can duplicate, but you can't replicate. Okay. So, it's just like, we cool. And
yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't even remember what I was talking about anymore.
I forgot what you were talking about too, just to be honest.
Travel.
Nafis, do you remember? Help us out, please.
No.
I
got distracted by side conversation.
Live your life, guys. Don't let your perception of I was very much Koreans don't like Black people, and that may very well be true. But what I've learned in talking to my friends is they may not like you, but unlike here, they're not going to talk about it. They're not going to say it to your face. They're not going to do harm you physically. And I'm like, that's fine. You can think whatever you want about me. Just don't put your hands on me. Whereas here in the States, they don't like you. They're going to put your hands on you or something worse. So, I mean, just experience it for yourself. Don't go in there with that fear.
So let me ask you this. I know you want to teach English abroad. Would you teach in Korea?
So
I never heard good stories about teaching as a foreigner in Korea.
So here's the thing with and if I were teaching, I don't know if I'd go the English route. I think I'd still want to teach at an international school in Korea. I heard that's a little bit better because again, you're not teaching just Koreans. You're teaching in like military kids. You're teaching business people who brought their families over and blah 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 yada yada. So these are international schools, and you're teaching to an international IB, international baccalaureate standard. So it's very different. I think the work culture in Korea is not great. Obviously, that's a very obvious point. Teachers, and I don't know if this happens at international school level, but I know Korean teachers teaching Korean children, those parents have your private number. And that is a big no-no.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
So
wow.
a month or so before I went to Korea, a teacher had actually committed suicide due to the harassment of a parent through that personal line. So it's not a Monday through Friday, okay, I don't see you, I have my weekend to myself stress that we have here. These parents have your personal number and will contact you all times a day. And that is not okay. And I think that's something that Korea needs to change, because just like you need to separate your work and private life, parents need to do that with teachers as well. We are not your slaves. We are not your housemaids. We're not your nannies. We're not your babysitters. We are not on call for you every single day, all hours a day. When school is done, we are done. And it does not need to travel home with us. And I get it. Like, oh, my kid needs help. Then Korea needs to set up a system that tutors or whatever and teachers can maybe be paid extra to help with those, just like we have here in the States, to
They
be able
do.
to
They have,
stay
like,
Isn't that
the
what
hot
those,
after school
ones.
care
those hot
programs.
ones
That's
are
actually
for?
what my new job is in. After school care programs, primarily in elementary schools, where they are not, I mean, we know after school back in the day used to be like playing games and eating food and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
It is
I did
changed.
nothing in after
It is
school as far
changed,
as academic.
supposedly changed. That's what my job is to make sure that they have their English time, their math time, their science every Friday, and then they also get to play games and do the arts and blah, 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 blah. That's what I am responsible for. So it is there, but again, it's catered to the lower income kids and the kids whose parents are working, blah, 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 fill in the blank. And so there's a lot that needs to change, I think, just globally. Obviously, Finland has it down
Yeah.
right. Maybe we need to start following Finland. I've seen so many good things. So if I do teach, maybe I need to teach internationally in Finland to get the best experience. But
So you have something to compare to, right?
yeah,
Yeah, and bring
right.
it back.
So because I mean, the U.S. we again love to brag about it, but we are not anywhere near where even European schools, you don't even have to talk about Asian schools, we're nowhere near that level of education, and we're only going to get worse because you see what's going on. So
But that also goes into the politics, and I don't
we're
like
not going to
touching
do
politics
that
on here. But
Yep.
yeah.
So a lot of things need to change. A lot of people need to put away their stupidity and their politics.
That's
and
a big
worry
ask.
about how it really is, and worry about our kids and being able to compete on a global stage, because right now it's not happening.
Yeah.
We are nowhere
agree.
near it. So but
Well, guys, this was a great conversation. I
was.
feel
This really
like
was.
very engaging.
And probably our longest,
Again,
too.
Now this is
I was
probably
gonna
our
say we've been out here
longest
for a while.
episode. But no, it was good. It was good. It was really needed as well. I think I got a lot of stuff out.
Mhm.
Again,
Yes.
healthy discussions. So I hope the people that do end up listening to this, our 2 followers, enjoy this as well. No, we have a pretty decent
We do,
following. I'm not
yes.
gonna lie. Numbers get screwed, but then again, it just depends on what type of episode we put out. Because like I know the K-pop ones do better than like the other ones, and then like even the Korean drama ones we talk about are a little bit better. But I haven't been able to do the K-pop game lately because Macy's been busy. So if anyone wants,
I can always do it
substitute for
because
her,
K-pop
be
and
my
me,
guest.
just let me know.
I would love to do
Heck
it with
yeah.
you with older groups, so I can get some information with older groups. So let me know how your new job goes, and we can try to coordinate something.
I will. I'm excited.
Yeah, I do know she promised me she'll do the end of the year one with BTS when all their solos come out. So that is something that both of us will do because we started the game with BTS. So if no one's heard our K-pop game, go back and listen to them. I think they're really funny. Again, one of my favorite ones. The BTS ones are my favorite ones just because we didn't know what we were doing. And it was so very chaotic.
It's a vibe.
Especially like when Nafis came in like towards the end. Like it was chaotic.
That sounds like a lot of fun. We should do it. I'm down.
It was fun. So if you also want to do them, Nafis, let me know. I have no idea about your music taste though. So the points would be interesting as far as trying to guess each other's favorite song.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
That would be interesting. That would be fun.
Yeah. I will let you guys know because I do miss doing that. That was one of the part of the segments of this podcast I enjoyed doing. So, but yeah. And then we still have some things to watch. Our 3 years coming up in about a month. Can you believe that?
Oh, wow. It's actually been 3. Wow. That's crazy.
We're still going. We're still here.
We're still here. Crazy.
We're still doing this unpaid podcast for about 3 years. No major studio has picked us up. No.
Sponsors, come here.
Our episodes are so long. I don't know how they'd be if we added sponsors into them.
Oh my God. You'd probably have to cut them down, like have actual time slots and be like, all right, we're talking about this between this time and this time. Yeah.
Yes. I would definitely have to be better at time management. But yeah, I enjoyed everything. Thank you, Briana, for taking your time as well, coming on here. Again, it's been a while. Hopefully you can come on a little bit more. Let us know how the new job goes because I always love having you as a guest. Enjoyed your trip, and hopefully all of us can try to plan to go to Korea together.
Yes, that would be awesome.
I would like to go with someone who's already been, even if you haven't done everything, but you're a little bit more familiar. So
Heck yeah. Girls trip, let's do it.
Honestly, let's do it. So let's try to plan that for next year.
I'm down.
When's a good year do you think you should go? Like springtime, definitely not summer. And I also sweat a lot, so I don't want to sweat.
Probably spring or fall.
Spring or fall.
Winter's probably way too
cold. So for me, that would be like spring break.
Which is
for me to get like a whole week.
Yeah, I can't do this spring break because I am going to Europe. Oh, I just found this out yesterday. Hopefully, we'll see. But yeah.
Fun. I didn't know if you thought the fall will also work as well.
What about August, like late August?
I think it's still pretty hot.
You would think like maybe September, October, maybe.
I think September. Yeah, September and October I feel like would probably be the best.
Okay.
We'll plan.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Any other words before we actually get out of here? Nope. Again, this has been a very long episode, but thank you if you've stuck around till the end, and I hope you enjoyed our conversations.
I loved it. Thank you for always having.
Of course.
Support this podcast. They do good work.
Hop on whenever you want to. I missed having you as our social media manager as well because I have been slacking. Okay.
My life was mad depressing. I could not even keep up with my own, let alone I was crying.
I understand. Well, I'm glad you're in a better spot. So, all right. Well, let me go ahead and do the closing then. Again, thank you for listening to us at I Was Thinking. You can follow us on X and Instagram and I Was
never
Thinking
gonna count.
Pod. You can follow me personally on TikTok as Simonetta 8 or is it _8. I'm actually forgetting my own handle. It will be in the comments. I will try to post more on the about the podcast on my TikTok just because it has ended up gearing to being like a BTS TikTok. But yeah, we'll see. Because my TikToks weren't being shown when I posted about the podcast. But then I didn't know. So now that I know how to work it and what to censor out, I'll probably start posting more about it. So I'm getting a better handle. But yes. Did I already shout out the email?
I don't think so.
No. If you have any questions, no concerns. I'm not really thinking about your concerns. If you have any questions, topics you want us to, talk about, feedback is good, but not concerns. I will accept feedback. If you just hate us, find a different podcast, okay? But you could do all that great stuff at iwasthinkingpod@gmail.com and rate us whatever the highest ratings are. Would be highly appreciated. Again, I can't see who do ratings, but thank you to whoever rated us 2 stars on Apple Music and Spotify. It means a lot. Aww. I will take anything. It's just nice to know, again, people are actually listening. Well, I'm done, and I guess we'll leave. I'm terrible at endings. I will get better. I've been Simone, that's been Briana, that's been The Feast, and have a good day, night, evening, wherever you are listening and when you're listening. Okay, bye.
Bye.